Hello! I made it! Oh gosh. Happy Halloween! Happy Halloween, everyone! I got to do this weird trick-or-treating thing at my work. I've never experienced anything like that. This new job was like, here's a bag, go to the different cubicles and ask for candy, and I was like, hey. So I did. It was very strange. We don't do Halloween here, but happy Halloween. Oh, okay. Thank you though. Hello, happy pumpkining. Pumpkining. Is that a good or a bad thing? I guess it was good. I just, I don't know, I'm not used to it. It was definitely new for me. New experience. It's like my old work, we would dress up. They would call it like Spirit Week. And it's like we dressed up today, but all I did was I put on a bendy onesie, and that was my costume. But man, some people, they had like really fancy costumes. One of my coworkers was like Cleopatra. Another was like a very fancy looking witch. Somebody looked like they came straight out of the 20s, which was kind of sick. You could say it was bizarre. For sure. It was wild. I was like, I'm not used to this. And then they also catered, and I was like, that's wonderful because I'm poor and that saves me from having to bring lunch. So I don't know, I'm not used to this, but I'll take it. I just gotta get used to it. But it was nice. It was nice. It was nice. And then I went and I got a little bag of candy for the kids if they come by, and like a little pop-in pizza. And I munched on that. Now I'm here. And tonight we're gonna watch some scary movies. Well, my household is. Us, we're gonna see Scary Human Echo. But then after, I'm gonna watch scary movies all night and try to stay up as long as I can. Which is hard for me. So Eli needs to make like coffee, and I'm gonna make a mocha. I got stuff to do like hot chocolate, and because it's actually cold out for once, and he hopefully either he or I will make coffee. He makes coffee better than me though. And then we'll combine and make mocha. My boss realized how annoying it possibly was to find that I could have done a scary Mothman costume, so that was fun. Really? She admitted it? That like You could have done that. That's funny. Stick it to the boss. Stick it to the boss. Hell yeah. It would have been cool if you went as Mothman. Not gonna lie. And then tomorrow. Tomorrow is fall back. So there's not tonight, but tomorrow night. It's fall back. So we get extra sleep. That's awesome. And then it doesn't feel as early when we wake up. That's also awesome. I'm so excited if you can't tell. I can't wait to go to work on time instead of struggling to wake up. Yay. Okay. Let's play. It should be spooky now. Today should be the day if the stars have aligned just right on Samhain. Then we should have spookies. We should have them. It should be spooky and not economics and not family drama. It should be that. Okay. I'm so desperate for this. Finally, yes. We should be there. We should be there. Why is it so small? Oh, because it, I guess, resets. But I require larger. Okay. I mean, to be fair, economics is terrifying. It's actually one of the classes I almost failed. That is true. I mean, like, if I was put in any of these guys' situations, I would probably, like, shit my pants. So, yes, pure terror. Pure terror. Alright. Let's get to actual spooky. This should be fun. Spooky? Spooky hour? Please? Please? The strange letter that the witch had entrusted to Maria wiped all memories of dinner from our minds. Maria was repeatedly barraged with questions by Aunt Rosa and the other parents, and became increasingly ill-tempered when they refused to believe her. If we kids tried to butt in, they'd probably ignore us. Our parents were all stirred up, firing back and forth about the gold and the distribution of the assets, and completely forgetting that we were even there. I'd already guessed that they had been talking like this in the shadows, but I hadn't thought they'd be so blunt. It gave all of us kids a considerable shock. From what we could overhear, all the parents wanted more money as soon as possible. Back and forth about grandfather's inheritance. Back and forth about the distribution of the gold if it was found. About advance payments in cash. It was so despicable, I could hardly bear to watch, even though one of them was my father. It looked like Jessica felt the same way. We left our seats without being asked to and went to hang out somewhere well away from our parents. I get it. Now I totally see why grandfather hates coming down for meals. I'm so disillusioned with our parents right now. All that about money and the inheritance. How could they act like that right out in the open? Well, I'm already completely disillusioned with my old bastard. There's no way I could think any worse of him. Here, let me... There we go. That's exactly the same for me. Still, that frickin' shocked me. Shocked me to the core. Jessica looked down at the floor, irritated. She was always talking about how bad her parents were, but maybe she hadn't really felt that way deep down inside. The depth of Jessica's shock made that clear. You're all minors being supported by your parents, so you might not understand. But getting money is neither a simple nor a pretty thing. I wouldn't try to force you to understand right now, since you're still kids. But even so, I want you to realize that your parents are doing their best in their own way. Oh, great. George has gotten all mature. George, I know you're working hard as a full-fledged member of society, but does that mean you turn into a shameless, greedy vulture like our parents whenever you start talking about money and assets? If it were only for my own benefit, then no, I wouldn't do that. However, when your family and your employees, your subordinates and their families are all counting on you, there are some times when you must fight. I hate that kind of fight. The back and forth about grandfather's inheritance just makes me want to puke. Jessica pretended to spit violently. That harsh reaction made the depths of her pain very clear. Let's stop talking about this. All this about grandfather's hidden gold, property, and inheritance is our parents' problem. Not ours. Let's see. Oh, by the way, if you have Epic Games, spending the ink machine is free to claim forever. I own it. I own it on Steam. But thank you. Thank you. I own it on Steam and I own it on Switch because I love it so much. I need to get the second one though. And they just announced a third one, I guess? Like, I gotta play the second one. Maybe I'll play the first one on stream. But I gotta play the second one because I did not quite understand that trailer. It'll look cool as hell. I agree. At the very least, I think children have a duty to be considerate and stay out of their parents' way when they're talking together. Sounds pretty boring. Everyone knows the phrase, adults are filthy, but we had now seen that for ourselves, and that really did give us a considerable shock. By second one, you mean chapter 2, or is there a whole new game? The Dark Revival. Bendy and the Dark Revival. But they are working on a third and a movie. Yeah! I heard about the movie too from you, I think. It's still just like a announcement. It's not, there's no trailer or anything, right? But yeah, the third one, like, I gotta play Dark Revival to know what's going on. George was now pretty much an adult, and I had already been disillusioned with my dad, so the shock wasn't that big for us. Not yet. Okay, cool. But Jessica seemed to be taking it hard. Apparently, she received a bigger blow than I had thought. She always talked badly about her parents, but it looks like she hadn't changed all that at all on the inside. Even now, she's still a pure-hearted, delicate person who can't doubt others. I'm sure she respects her parents as much as anyone else does. And then her parents started raging about, going, money, money, inheritance, inheritance, and my money. Right in front of all the other parents and the children. It's no surprise she received such a shock from hearing that. Jessica, please don't start hating your mother and father. I won't ask you to understand them, but at least don't hate them. I get it. Just leave me alone for a bit. 6 years ago, I would have kept taunting Jessica even after she got all dejected, but I guess I really have grown over the last 6 years. I realized I'd be better to leave Jessica alone right now. Jessica suddenly looked away sulkingly and left the parlor. She probably wanted to be alone for a while. I could do nothing but wordlessly watch her back as she left. Come to think of it, I wonder where Maria went. She's probably pouting in front of the portrait. Maria truly looked up to witches, and she expected that coming in direct contact with Beatrice and receiving the letter as proof would surprise everyone and make them happy. However, the adults had doubted its authenticity, thoroughly bombarding Maria with questions and refusing to accept her story. Even for me, it wasn't hard to imagine how much that must have hurt Maria. We couldn't speak to Maria or Jessica. In the end, George and I just abandoned ourselves to the sound of the falling rain in the dark night. I wonder what's happening with that typhoon. Maybe there's something about it on the news. George started walking over to the corner of the parlor where the television was. He hadn't called me over, and I really couldn't have cared less whether the typhoon was on the sea now. So without going over to the television, I loitered around the window. The wind hasn't picked up that much here, but I wonder if it's horrible over the sea. I did hear about the severe storm warning on the weather report. Ah, Kifé. I take it those big talks between the adults are getting smoothly, yeah? She seemed to catch the sarcasm. Kifé shrugged. I wonder if the stomachache of a discussion will continue all night. It's not going to be fun. Well then, please enjoy playing vultures to grandfather's property as much as you'd like. I feel sick. I agree with you on that. If I could just slip away like you, I'd do it. Unfortunately, I can't. Even if I'm not allowed to speak, we spouses have it pretty rough too. Kifé took a deep breath, smiling bitterly. That's right. They probably wouldn't let Kifé speak since she's only married into the family. Still, as a dad's partner, she had no choice but to stay by his side and support him. She's probably had to bear that full brunt of his mental pressure much more than me. I wasn't going to apologize, but I realized that I'd spoken too harshly. I cut the sarcasm for the time being. So, how does it look? Are they still stuck on the topic of the mysterious witch Beatrice? More or less. Those four siblings are always piling up secret agreements when they come together to discuss the division of grandfather's inheritance. They're saying that some unknown fifth person has appeared and is trying to make things even more complicated, and there's no way that'll make for a peaceful conversation. Just when you think they're snarling at each other, they'll set up a common front. Natsuhi's not the only one getting headaches. On the one hand, they all want a larger portion of the other siblings, so they're all rivals. But on the other hand, they don't want one yen to be snatched up by any other than the siblings, so they're also all allies. I hadn't been told the details, but the siblings were apparently discussing how to protect their shares under various situations. You should dress up as Kinzo next year. Oh, desire. He's old and crusty though. What about Battler? Setting up ceasefire agreements and rules to prevent anyone from getting an unfair advantage, even preparing to resort to legal action if absolutely necessary. That they would go this far to preserve their shares was so beyond disgusting that you just had to acknowledge their resilience. So, basically, Beatrice is like an assassin sent by grandfather. He probably wanted to scare the hell out of his children for talking about the inheritance without him. Who is this Beatrice, I wonder? If everything she claims is true, then she's a mystery figure that no one knew about until today. And she also knows about grandfather's hidden gold. On top of that, she was even entrusted with the head's ring. She must truly have been trusted by him. Well, obviously I don't think she's a witch riding around on a broom, but there's no doubt she's a mysterious person who's earned the right to be called a witch. If only Maria would go into more detail about that. Everyone's been smothering her, even though she's just a little girl. They really scared her, and some things they might have asked now can't be asked. I wonder if those people have ever even read The North Wind and the Sun. What we do know is that Maria received a letter from a person who took the name Beatrice. She sure is shy for a mysterious person, entrusting Maria with a letter and hiding away even now, when she could have just appeared and talked to us directly. How's City of Heroes going? Hi, Gwen. Hi, Gwen. Hey, Battler. Do you really think a person called Beatrice actually exists? Who knows? Doesn't it really seem like a false name? Like she's grandfather's representative, so she was given permission to take the name of the witch from his delusions? No, that's not what I meant. Right now, there's a total of 18 people here on Rokenjima. Do you think there's a 19th person? Are there really a full 18 people on the island right now? Wondering about that, I began counting on my fingers, and it really did come out to that many. Do I think a 19th person exists? What exactly do you mean? Just what I said. The person who lent Maria that umbrella supposedly wasn't one of us 18. So isn't it natural to assume that a 19th person exists, and that this person lent Maria the umbrella? Well, yeah, it sure looks that way. Then where exactly is this person now? At the very least, it must have been on the island when it started raining, and ever since that time the weather has grown progressively worse, so taking a boat out would be pretty much impossible. In that case, that person must still be on the island, hiding from the rain somewhere, and without any of us spotting her. True. We've all been randomly prowling around all over the mansion and the guest house, but no one's bumped into a 19th person. But this island is huge. There might be other places to take shelter from the rain, other than the mansion and the guest house. At about this time, I began to realize what direction Kyrie's suspicions were taking us. Kyrie was denying that a 19th person existed. Beatrice was one of us 18. In other words, she thought someone we knew well was tricking us. If Beatrice is who she claims, she would surely be the most honored of guests, the most honored of confidants trusted by Grandfather. There's no way Grandfather would give that kind of person a warm reception. She would surely have been ushered into the mansion. However, we haven't seen anyone like that. Wait a second. Isn't this line of reasoning a bit too hasty? Sure, no one spotted this person, but that doesn't mean that you can't deny the possibility that a 19th person exists, right? Maybe, for some reason, they landed on the island stealthily and have been hiding ever since. It's what they call a devil's proof. It's easy to prove that something exists. If this Beatrice appeared in front of us all and said hi, then it's settled. But it's impossible to prove that there's no 19th person. Yes, Battler, your way of reasoning isn't bad. In our current situation, there isn't enough information to either accept or deny that a 19th person exists. But if you spin the chessboard around and think that way, we can deny the existence of a 19th person with near certainty. Spin the chessboard around was one of Kyrie's favorite phrases. I've been influenced by those words and use them myself from time to time. When you get stuck trying to find a move in chess or shogi, then by spinning the board around and looking at everything from your opponent's standpoint, you can often see a strategy that'll give you the upper hand. It means turning things around and putting yourself in your opponent's shoes. You see? Let's say that a 19th person called Beatrice actually exists. That person must have managed, without being seen by anyone, to stealthily arrive on the island and remain hidden ever since. Maybe they've had some reason. Okay, in that case, why did they go to all the trouble of appearing before Maria and handing her the letter? It really was a contradiction. If they had some kind of reason for hiding themselves, then they should have stayed hidden the whole time. But even so, they had appeared openly in front of Maria. Then, wait, Maria said it herself. She said the witch made her a messenger. Maybe that's because Maria was the youngest and looked the most obedient. Why would they need a messenger? If they just wanted a letter delivered to the family conference, they could have mailed it. If they mailed it to each of the 4 siblings, no one would be able to ignore it. There was no need for this person to carry it themselves and secretly deliver it by hand. Yeah. Wait. That does sound pretty weird. In the first place, if Beatrice existed and wanted to make her presence known to everyone, then she could have just openly presented herself to all of us. Despite that, she chose the vague method of appearing through a little girl called Maria, and only gave us a vague impression of who she was. Contradiction. Let's go a little deeper, shall we? She appeared in front of Maria, trying to give us the impression that a 19th person existed, and yet she still hasn't appeared before us and is hiding somewhere at this very moment. Thinking about those contradictions. You got to keep these things in mind when you spin the chessboard around. In short, if a person wants to leave us with the impression that Beatrice existed as the 19th person, what might their goal be? If this person wanted to hide, then they wouldn't have made their presence known. And if they wanted to show themselves, they wouldn't have used the roundabout approach of entrusting someone with a letter. Which means... It's simple. Beatrice is one of the 18 people. That's why they want to create the illusion that there are more than 18 people. The 19th person was revealed so spectacularly. If someone were to profit from this, it wouldn't be some 19th person in hiding. It'd be one of the original 18 people. Of course, this reasoning is full of holes. If you turn over even a few of its premises, it'll simply fall apart. But I'm almost completely certain it's correct. This is starting to feel a bit creepy. Someone lent Maria the umbrella and handed her the letter. Supposedly, none of the 18 did this, and yet Beatrice was hiding among those 18. What was this person planning, hiding their true form and pretending to be Beatrice? I suspect it might have been Maria's play acting, but the contents of the message were extremely complicated, and it's hard to imagine Maria writing that herself. However, I can't deny the possibility that Maria is working together with someone. Wait a second. Maria's a 9-year-old kid, right? What could she possibly be planning, and with whom? And what about her straightforward, overly honest, obedient nature? Yes, I also understand what kind of person Maria is, but that's exactly why I think it's possible. That girl's a dreamer who can't help but look up to and blindly accept the existence of witches. So if a person appeared in front of her and claimed to be the witch Beatrice, Maria would happily swallow it up, I think. So you're saying that if someone disguised themselves by wearing that fancy dress from the portrait, tricking Maria wouldn't be that hard? Of course, with that reasoning, all of us women would become the primary suspects. Anyway, who did Maria encounter? Learning the details of that question would be the best key to solve this riddle. But this key has been firmly locked away inside Maria's heart. Everyone denied the existence of the witch without listening to her, barraging her too much with questions about who Beatrice actually was. She probably won't open up her heart to the adults now. In the dim hall in front of the portrait of Beatrice, Maria was sobbing.
Oh, no one believes I met Beatrice. Even though I showed them the letter Beatrice gave me, they still don't believe.
She's saying. Wow. Anyway, Maria's holding the key. The key to whether Beatrice is one of the 18 or a 19th person. Maria's stubborn, right? When the girl gets angry, it's pretty hard to make her feel better. Battler, I think a kid like you would be better at cheering her up than an adult like me. After she's feeling better, try husking. I know you don't care about all this back and forth about the inheritance, but don't you find this Western Mansion mystery situation exciting? Who in the world is this person who gave Maria the letter? It makes your intellectual curiosity ache. You're actually pretty tough, considering you're still excited after being dragged through that endless money talk. Adults can be pretty amazing. I shrugged exasperatedly. But I did notice something. Kyrie noticed how dejected I was after overhearing our parents' turbulent discussion, and was probably trying to clear the air. At the very least, I'd recovered enough to voice my complaints. She wasn't my real mother, so I've never felt like calling her mom, but it did make me think she's a real adult. Hey brats, so this is where you are. Kyrie, you really took your time fixing your makeup, didn't you? Think I'll make a habit of going out to touch up my makeup too. I'm sorry, a woman's makeup takes a long time. So, how has the discussion been without me? I'm sure everything was all peaceful and harmonious. Kyrie poked the weak spot under my arm with her elbow. We decided to take a break to cool our heads a little. It looks like we'll be at it all night. Makes me want to cry. His way of talking hadn't changed, but he couldn't completely hide his fatigue. I couldn't say I was sympathetic, but he looked pitiful compared to his normal, energetic self. Still, that rain's just awful. I really don't want to go back to the guest house. Looks like Natsuhi set things up so we could spend the night here in the mansion. What'll we do? We don't need to decide until you're done, right? If you run so low on energy that you can't return to our room, then we'll take them up on their offer. You're right. We can think about it later. What about you, Battler? If I stayed, I'd just get in the way. I'll be nice and go back over there. I see. Will you go back soon? I don't know. It'll be lonely to head back by myself. I'll gather all the kids and we'll head out. Okay. You go do that. Also, Battler, you won't be going to sleep that easily tonight, right? Yeah, I'll probably be up talking with the cousins. Sounds like we'll be up all night. Is there a problem with that? I see. If you're still awake when the adult discussion is over, I want to have a little talk as family. Oh, what? That doesn't sound like you. Apparently, Kyrie was thinking the same thing. What are you talking about? She asked him in a small voice. It looked like Kyrie didn't have a clue what Dad meant either. I also want to talk to you about it, Kyrie. I'll tell you later, so don't ask now. Please. I don't know anyone who neglects the concept of family as much as this old bastard. And now he's saying we're gonna have a talk as a family? Both Kyrie and I couldn't help but get wide-eyed. Don't look so terrified. I'm the one who should be terrified.
This is a life-threatening situation. Please dial emergency services directly from your phone.
What? Hold on. Sorry. My Amazon Dot randomly just said if this is a life-threatening emergency, please call 911. Did I say something that was that unnerving? Yeah, it did. That's so weird. You scared Amazon, apparently. What? Yeah, it... I'm gonna just unplug it really quick. Yeah, it's the Flex one or whatever. I just unplugged it. I can plug it back in and it'll be like good as new, but like if I somehow say something that's way too close to Alexa and it just decides to do something, then, yeah, no, I'm good. That was scary. Okay. Don't look so terrified. I'm the one who should be terrified, after all. All that pointing, at that point, he swallowed his words for an instant, even though putting on airs of importance wasn't much like my dad. You're freaking me out, Dad. Everyone in our family gathered here now, right? Don't make a big deal out of it and spit it out. Tonight, I will probably be killed. There was a huge crash of thunder. It must have been really close. Dad's expression, brightly illuminated by the light, was burning in my eyes. Dad's face, which always looked so sure of itself, and which always wore a taunting expression, was strangely frail in a way I couldn't really explain. It was so worn out that he looked like a different person. What? What are you talking about? That doesn't sound like you. I agree. What happened? You look so timid all of a sudden. It's not like you. I'm gonna go fix up my makeup too. Don't follow me. Dad turned away weakly. After that, only Kiri and I were left, still wide-eyed. What did he just say? Tonight, he'd be killed? You don't think that mysterious letter scared him, do you? He's been watching too many serial murder movies. Kiri didn't answer my light-hearted words and continued to stare at my dad's disappearing back. Battler, when you told Rudolph to spill the beans right away, he left without telling us anything. Even though he said he had something to say to both of us, he didn't answer you. Why? Spin the chessboard around. What do you see? Well, when he said he wanted to talk, but then couldn't, that's a contradiction. What can you see? What? Can you see something by looking from Dad's perspective? Yes, I can see something. He wanted to talk about something, however, he doesn't have the courage to bring it up. So he actually means, chase after me, talk to me, and ask me about it yourself. By saying, don't follow me, he actually means the opposite. He actually means, follow me and force me to answer. Seriously, what a spoiled brat. What? Can you really call that reasoning? That's ridiculous. Can great private and police detectives deduce the emotions and feelings between men and women? They can't, right? Figuring out the feelings of the opposite sex is even more advanced art than exposing the tricks in difficult crime cases. If you ask me, romance novels have much deeper mysteries than masterpiece mystery novels. I see. Is that how it is? I'll stand alongside the spoiled brat. He normally loves to bluff, but tonight he's completely tired out from the heated discussion. He probably wants someone to lean on at the moment. And responding to that need is the role of his partner. Sounds passionate. Then I'll leave that old bastard in your hands. Yes, leave it to me. I called out to Kiri's departing back. Huh? What? I wanted to say thanks. Thanks to you, my gloomy mood has cleared up a lot. That's good. Communication's important. After answering with a wink, Kyrie followed after Dad.
I like Kyrie.
Natsuki could be found in a dimly lit hallway. Now and then the thunder would crash, but this had no effect on her expression. She looked completely worn out. The discussion that had just taken place between the relatives in the dining hall was repeating itself inside Natsuki's mind. Beatrice had proclaimed that in addition to the gold, all of the inheritance and property of the Oshiromiya family would be given to the person who could solve the riddle. In other words, she planned to undermine the absolute guarantee that Kraus, as the oldest brother, had to succeed the family head. Originally, the other siblings had absolutely no chance in inheriting the headship. To them, this proposal by Beatrice was extremely desirable. It was obvious that they would accept it. There was no need to play some clumsy detective game. Natsuhi knew that this so-called 19th person, Beatrice, didn't exist. Naturally, Beatrice was nothing more than a fictional character used to pass a message that Kinzo had written himself. As proof, Kinzo had remained stubbornly neutral as to that letter's authenticity. He was completely ignoring these reckless claims that he shouldn't be able to ignore, that he had given up the head's ring. In short, Kinzo had wordlessly admitted that the letter held his own message. Most likely to the servants that had given Maria the letter. Most likely one of the servants that had given Maria the letter. Kinzo had probably worked out an elaborate plan where the dress from the portrait would be prepared, and someone, probably Shannon, would be made to wear it and deliver the letter and the umbrella. By doing that, he can make it seem like the witch from the portrait actually existed. No, if anything, that alone was proof that Kinzo was behind all of this. In that case, it was the same as Kinzo trying to butt in on the siblings' private discussion. Then Kinzo, by announcing that he had given everything to the person who solved the riddle, could weaken Krause's overwhelming advantage. Now it was certain. Kinzo had eavesdropped on the siblings' discussion in the parlor earlier that day, so he had known how Krause had staved off the attack by the other three, and to make the scales of the battle go back into balance, he had sent out this strange letter which benefited Krause's rivals. He was trying to push this crazy theory so that Rosa, who had a weak position among the siblings because of her age, would join with Eva and Rudolph. Then, with a 3-to-1 advantage, they'd be able to overwhelm Krause yet again and make the ridiculous theories get accepted by force. And by doing that, he gave them the power to resettle what had once been nearly decided conflict. They had now started repeatedly pressing Krause to pay them a large amount of money. Whoa, I'm for some reason only at 2? 2 what? 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 Using the condition that all the siblings would guarantee Krause's position as the successor, talk about advance payments was being brought up again despite having been rejected once. Of course, even without the story about the hidden gold, the Oshiromiya family store of wealth was vast. That store of wealth alone was more than enough. Even if the hidden gold was buried forever along with Kinzo's death, there would be more than enough to satisfy. Therefore, even if they weren't that interested in the gold itself, Kinzo had managed to instill the lifelong fear that, on the off chance that someone found the gold, that person would be granted the headship. Oh, okay. It doesn't show up on my multi-chat. Hold on. 10 streams in a row. This is becoming a river. Hell yeah. Thank you for showing up so much. Thank you. I'm for some reason only at 2. I feel like you've been here every single time. That's so weird. Weird. And this kind of Achilles heel would definitely be taken advantage of by someone sooner or later. The only person with this fatal weakness was the successor Krause. The other siblings had found. No, they had been told by Kinzo about something that only Krause could lose, and they had thoroughly taken advantage of that. Natsuhi, as Krause's only ally in his painful position and as his wife, wanted to fight alongside him. She kept trying to explain to him that the existence of the gold itself was a farce, and there was no need for him to compromise. Kraus had always told Natsuhi. He had always told all of the siblings. He always said that the hidden gold was nothing more than an illusion created by Kinzo. Therefore, Natsuhi had believed it as his wife and had supported her husband on that foundation. Even so, Natsuhi's words didn't reach Kraus. Even though Natsuhi had fought so hard and had lent all of her strength, he continued to fight by himself and was trying to compromise with the other 3 siblings. Natsuhi sadly and weakly wondered why she could be of no use to him, and then started to get angry. It had happened when everyone decided to take a short break to cool their heads. Natsuhi had flared up against Kraus. Enraged, she had asked why she could not be useful to him. He had then told her that he wanted to talk about something and invited her in a room that she was normally not allowed to enter. That room had been sealed with a heavy-looking padlock, and just looking at it had given her an uncomfortable feeling. First thing in the morning, I will. I did watch some gameplay, and I feel like I'll enjoy it. Oh, the Zoids game. Yes. There is no need for you to worry about anything said by those 3, or even this suspicious person who calls herself Beatrice. After all, the gold is just a ruse created by Father. There's no way something like that could be found. Your position as the successor is a solid fact. What are you so afraid of? Kraus removed the padlock on the door. Then he motioned for Natsuhi to enter. Enter. What is this? There's something I want you to see. I've never shown you this before. Natsuhi timidly opened the door with a dubious expression on her face. It was pitch black. She searched for a switch to turn on the lights, but since this was her first time in the room, she didn't know where it was. Kraus entered behind her, pushing her in, and then he closed the door before turning on the lights. The 2 were swallowed up by the darkness. Only the sound of Kraus locking the door rang out through the dark. What are you doing? The lights? I'm turning them on now. Wait. Just as he said that, when Kraus pushed a switch on the wall, a flickering light turned on and lit up the room. That is... Natsuhi had her breath taken away. The room had no windows, and at a glance it appeared to be empty. In the middle of the room, a small, round table had been set, and the light brightened only on that table, as if it were a leading part in a play. On top of the table, a red tablecloth of elaborate design had been set out, covered in dust. And on top of that, something, about the size of a grown man's arm, had been set down. That something took Natsuhi's breath away. Oh shit. It's a gold ingot of incredible purity. Without this, no one would have believed in the legend of the gold. It was an ingot of solid gold. Even in the faint light, it sparkled with a noble and dignified glint. It's not a proper ingot. I don't even know whether it was cast inside or outside the country. It took a high level of skill to make the purest of solid gold ingots. In order to verify that purity, it was standard to have the original foundry and the name of the bank that guaranteed it imprinted on the gold. However, this ingot did not have that kind of seal. This mysterious golden bar had come from an unknown foundry. Look here. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a bar of gold. Natsuhi followed Cross's words, timidly approaching the ingot. Right there. Cross pointed at the surface of the ingot. Natsuhi concentrated on that section. Right there was the thin imprint of the one-winged eagle crest. Natsuhi's breath was taken away once again. That's right. This is the legendary ingot that Father said he received from the witch, that the president of Marso witnessed and was allowed to select at random to take back with him. That gained the trust of the fixers in the business world. I had to use all possible means to find it. I found it before the other siblings could. How could... then... the legend of Father's gold is... it actually exists. The gold that Oshiromiya Kenzo received from Beatrice actually exists. Impossible. So it really does exist? Natsuhi was shocked. Kraus had always said that Kenzo's gold was just a fabrication, so she believed it, as his wife. However, the reality was different. Since he held definite proof, he had been more certain than any of the other siblings that the legend of gold was true. Because of this, Kraus was deeply frightened at the possibility that someone other than himself would find the gold he failed to find, costing him everything. But to Natsuhi, this truth was more than enough to split open her heart. It's real as fuck, yo. It's for real, for real. She had thought that, as Kraus's wife, she should be his closest confidant, which was why she had selflessly supported him. And yet, he had hid this fact from her until today. Why? Have I been so undeserving of your trust? That has never been my intention. There was simply no need to tell you. Is that all a wife means to you? Calm down. Becoming passionate easily is one of your bad habits. You're the one who's making me like that, aren't you? I've been supporting you as a wife ever since I married into this family. For your sake, I threw away the family I was born into, and I've been offering up my heart and my body to serve you. And in return, this is what I get? How could you? Kraus grimaced, looking annoyed. His expression effectively communicated how much he disliked this part of Natsuhi, even if he didn't say it out loud. It doesn't look like I will be of any use to you anymore. That's fine. I can resolve the troubles with the siblings by myself. I don't need your help. That's wrong. This is the Oshiromiya family's problem. It's true that I'm not permitted to wear the family crest on my body, but I am still your wife. Even so, are you saying I'm not capable of helping you? Are you? I especially wouldn't want to risk getting you involved. It would probably make your headaches even worse than they are now. Take a rest for today. The siblings will deal with the siblings' problems. It has nothing to do with you. That is all. A woman gives up her family and her body, and suddenly she expects your trust. Damn. Gosh, why is she so greedy, yo? What the fuck? Didn't she say she was useless first? She did. She did. She did the thing where she goes, I guess you don't need me then anymore, do you? And then he went, okay, instead of going, wait, no, sweetheart, that's not what I meant. And then she was like, wait, you're not supposed to agree with me. What the fuck, Adayo? A dull headache tormented Natsuhi. No matter what medicine she took, no matter what scent she burned, it wouldn't heal. In fact, simply wandering alone through the dark corridors and listening to the sound of the rain seemed to be a better cure. I may be Natsuhi, but
you know what? I frequently behave in ways that would make me feel unsafe if it were on my channel, but when it's on somebody else's channel, it's their problem, not mine.
To be fair, this woman has been just trying her best to keep everything together so that he doesn't have to worry. And then she finds out he hit a very, very important family point behind her back. So, to be fair, in the middle of a migraine, I would probably also be like spouting things. Spouting things. She's under a lot of duress right now. I don't like Natsuhi. We'll just point that out right now. But she got points more than Kraus. I don't like Kraus at all. He's just an asshole. And he can't do business right. He is not emotionally secure. He doesn't give a shit about his actual blood relatives. What is he? What can he do? Nothing. He steals air. That's what he does. It's like Natsuhi is an asshole. And she is flippant, but at least she's loyal. And she tries. Kraus is just like, ooh, money. Disneyland? Wait, that didn't work. Islands of Adventure. Wait, that didn't work. It's like, bro, what? Excuse me, sir. You can't be doing that shit. To be fair, Kyrie though is like top tier. She's a chill lady. It's like Kyrie and Jessica are probably best girls. Let's see. I may be Natsuhi, but I was never Oshiromiya Natsuhi. I have been despised and treated as a borrowed womb and insulted when I couldn't even fill that role. Even so, I have tried to properly perform my duties as a wife, but now even my husband has rejected me. I've done my best raising my daughter as if it were the last job left to me. However, I've had no release for my anger and sadness, and they've caused me to subconsciously strain that relationship too. Because I've been excessively strict in Jessica's education, she dislikes me thoroughly. She despises me for having no interest in anything but grades. There is no longer anything I can do for the Oshiromiya family. No, that's not good. Despite it all, I must help my husband and beat back the schemes of the other Grady siblings. The family head won't be around much longer. Eventually, Kraus will succeed the head. And the next successor will be Jessica. Strictly speaking, the man who enters the family by marrying Jessica will become the next head. But it all comes to the same thing. I have to make Jessica an excellent successor whom everyone will accept as worthy to take over the Oshiromiya family. In the days to come, that greedy Oshiromiya Eva will probably be plotting to find some fault with the main family. And if all goes as she plans, Jessica will be dragged down from the succession with George set up in her place. It is regrettable, but George is a man, and even more, he's mature as a person. Compared to Jessica, who is right in the middle of her rebellious period and whose grades are slightly below average, it can be seen at a glance who is more fit to succeed the head. Geez, Natsuhi isn't life away from people and constant surveillance and no privacy enough for you. What do you want? Basic respect? Come on now. Jekka and Kyrie agree on full cut. Yes. Yes. I don't know if there's a best guy, like, in this point. I know later there is, but like right now, everybody, all the dudes are so flippant. Like Battler, he's got hands. And then like George is like, he's just like, just let it happen, bro. Let's not get involved. And I'm like, bro, why are you like this? Cannon's like, I am furniture. And then Battler's dad's an creep. Kraus is an asshole. Hideyoshi is like nice, but then you see that he's greedy. And it's like, Kinzo's crazy. Is there a good guy right now? I guess yes, the lawn chair. Canon. Canon is probably okay for now. But it's just like, dang. There's no best guy right now. May there be exposition for you all. You has food? What'd you get? What food did you get? What you got? After doing that, I want to find her an excellent husband worthy of the excellent person she will have become. A wonderful man who will truly accept Jessica and stay with her through all of her life's joys and sorrows. Was Natsuhi trying to entrust her daughter with fulfilling some desire of her own? Natsuhi thought back on the days when she had no choice but to marry into the Oshiromiya family because of that unavoidable fate. She had tried to block that from her memory. She had consciously forgotten it and had actively attended to the life she had been given as Oshiromiya Natsuhi. And in doing so, she had built up a new life. But just now, it felt like all that had been casually rejected. She was bought. That sounds prime. Honey barbecue fried chicken. Oh, that sounds so good. Oh yeah, she was a trade wife. So she's loyal even though she didn't even want to marry him. That sucks. Yeesh. Yeesh. How should I think as I live my life? I do not know. Natsuhi helplessly rested her head against the glass of the window. The glass, which was cool thanks to the raindrops beating against it, felt somehow refreshing. Even though it should have been emotionless, right then it seemed to be the only thing that could understand Natsuhi. At that point, even if someone had appeared, Natsuhi didn't intend to pay any attention to them. But she did pay attention, because it was her beloved daughter. It's you, Mom. What the heck are you doing in a place like this? I thought you were a ghost. Just like always, her words were rough and not all like a girl's. Instinctively, words of rebuke rose to Natsuhi's throat. However, their strength gave out and they didn't escape her lips. Jessica, forgive me, but my headache is awful. Please, leave me be. I see. Jessica was seeing her mother in a position of feebleness for the first time, so she was considerably disconcerted. Until just now, she had been filled with contempt for all of the parents, including her mother. But now, those feelings had been completely swept away. Her mother, utterly exhausted face had wiped them all out. In its place, the words George had told her floated back up in her mind. Our parents are doing their best in their own way. And because their families are counting on them, they can't afford to keep everything pleasant and have a heavy responsibility to fight. Maybe her mother had been standing around in this dimly lit hallway because no one had tried to understand that part of her. Jessica hated her mother. So, she had no intention of speaking kindly to Natsuhi just because she was looking a bit frail. So when she attempted to speak kindly to her mother anyway, she had to clench her fist and gather up the words from deep in her heart. Did he get the Amazon Prime 2-day free shipping? I have no idea what you're trying to say. You good? Who? What? It sounds like you've got your hands full with that meeting thing. It has nothing to do with you. Please go somewhere else. Is your headache bad? Should I get some medicine? You don't have to trouble yourself. Please leave me alone. Natsuki wasn't being cold. She just wanted her daughter to go far away so that she wouldn't have to bump against Natsuki's own short temper. But there was no chance that Jessica would realize this. Okay. You said she was a mail order Oh. Oh. I feel like you have a delay or something. Yeah, I guess he did get the 2-day shipping. Makes sense now, yeah. Jessica hung her head, looking sad. Seeing that expression, Natsuki recognized the kindness that Jessica was trying to muster. She gave her head a small shake to drive away her own unkind feelings. You do? Okay. I was like, that was minutes ago. I can't, I got a fish brain, bro. Oh, excuse me, I hiccup. Oh. Oh. Oh god. Oh god. I'm broken, guys. Yeah, I had the hiccups. Thank you for trying to scare me. I was like drinking and holding my breath. Oh gosh. Jessica hung her head, looking sad. Seeing that expression, Natsuki recognized the kindness that Jessica was trying to muster. She gave her head a small shake to drive away her own unkind feelings. Then I'll leave. I'll be with the other cousins, so don't get in the way of the adults. See you later. Wait there. She called Jessica, who was trying to leave and looked lonely, to a stop. What? Thank you for being so considerate. It isn't good for me to go to sleep and leave you alone. Don't talk like that. You'll bring back luck. I've made you worry, but I'm okay now. I will go. If I let my daughter see me in this this feeble any longer, I'll only make her feel more uneasy. With that thought in mind, Natsuki left Jessica with words of gratitude and made to depart. This time, Jessica called out to her mother's back. Natsuki stopped and turned around, asking what business Jessica had with her. But Jessica herself didn't know why she stopped her mother. And for a while, she smiled wryly, muttering to herself as she hesitated over what to say. She was poking around in her pocket when her hand touched something and took it out. Hey Mom, I was given this charm today. What was it? A charm against magic? I'm pretty sure that you were supposed to hang it from your doorknob, I think. I forget. There's no point in me having it, so I'll let you take it. It was the scorpion charm that Maria had given her on the beach. Although she had heard of its various effects from Maria, Jessica's mind had gone blank, and she was just barely able to say even that much. Jessica, thinking that her mother probably wouldn't accept it anyway, immediately drew back the hand that she had stuck out, grasping the charm. So when Natsuki came back to take it, she was extremely shocked. What is this? Some kind of prize toy? Well, I think it's something like that. I guess you wouldn't really expect a charm that looks like a toy to do anything. But her mother took the charm from where she grasped it in her hand. Thank you. I'll take good care of it. Sometime soon, in exchange, why don't I give you a charm that was important to me when I was a child? It's not like that's why I gave it to you. But, well, if you really say so. Then I will rest now. My headache is awful. Try not to stay up too late. Sure. Natsuhi put the charm in her pocket and turned away. She then disappeared in the dark hall. It seemed the weather will be like this all day tomorrow after all. Dang, this makes the good weather we had earlier feel like a lie. George and I were killing time in front of the parlor television. At that point, Jessica returned. Her face was still blank, but it looked like she calmed down a little since we'd last seen her. Is Maria still in front of the portrait? Nope. She just came back and she's sleeping over there on the sofa. It's getting pretty late for her after all. Looking at the clock, I saw it was a little past 10 p.m. Even if we're planning to stay up all night, it was about time to head back to our rooms. Well, my mom did have a room prepared for us in the mansion. What'll we do? I'd rather head back to the guest house. Going by what we saw of our parents, I think it'd be better if we weren't in the mansion. I agree. Feels like they're telling us kids to mind our own business and stay out of their way. Let's be good little boys and girls and do that. As we were talking about this, Aunt Rosa came into the parlor. She was looking all over restlessly, probably trying to find Maria. Aunt Rosa, if you're looking for Maria, she's over here on the sofa. Thank you. My, she's out cold. We must move her to her bed. If you'd like, I'll carry her over to the bed. Thanks, that would be wonderful. Are you all heading back to the guest house? Or are you going to stay in the room Natsuhi had prepared here? We're just talking about that. We just decided to head over to the guest house. I see. Then could I ask you to take Maria with you? I'd feel much more reassured if she stayed with all of you cousins. Behind those words, she seemed to be concealing some regret that the adults, herself included, had deeply hurt Maria's feelings. Leave it to us, Aunt Rosa. After all, we do have an expert at comforting Maria with us. Are you talking about me? I couldn't do it myself. We'll all need everyone together. That's right. Battler, weren't you the one who hit it off with Maria when you were messing around earlier? As we said this, Aunt Rosa smiled, looking truly happy. Thank you, everyone. It looks like our meeting will last until very late, so while I'm sorry to burden you like this, I'll be counting on you all to take care of Maria. Hey, Maria, are you sound asleep? We're going back to the guest house. Maria muttered something indistinct, rolled over, fell back asleep. Looked like she was sleeping deeply. She's really out cold. I'd hate to wake her. Right, I'll carry her. Maria's body was much lighter than it looked. I lifted her up and put her on George's back. It was raining hard outside, and Big Brother couldn't hold onto an umbrella and carry Maria at the same time. Looked like Aunt Rosa would come with us as far as the guest house to help out. However, when she heard Uncle Krause's voice call out to her, she had no choice but to return. Now that's a problem. I have to go back now. Is everyone returning to the guest house? After we left to the hall on the way to the entrance, the door to the servant room opened and Shannon stepped out. It has grown very dark, so allow me to guide you. That would be great, Shannon. George is going to carry Maria there. Could you hold an umbrella for him? Yes, certainly. Shannon brought umbrellas for each of us and a flashlight to guide the way. As we opened the front door, the downpour was quite terrific. It looked like we wouldn't have any spare time to take a pleasant walk and enjoy the nighttime rose garden. Big bro, is she too heavy? Want me to carry her? It's okay. I can at least carry Maria. I'm truly grateful. Please take care of Maria. Sure, you got it. Then I guess this is good night, Aunt Rosa. Then I will see them over there and return here. Yes, please. Aunt Rosa watched us leave. Maria, I'm sorry for everything. Rosa's mumbling voice didn't reach the person in question, nor any of the kids, but disappeared beneath the sound of the rain. After cutting through the rainy rose garden, we arrived at the guest house. If only I applied for the position of Maria's carrier. Then I would have gotten a chance to have Shannon's huge boobs rubbing all over my arm. What the fuck? That's not why I did it. It's a misunderstanding. I thought if I didn't walk like this, George would get all wet. Come on, quit babbling and go in. After being urged on by Jessica, we folded up our umbrellas and went into the guest house. Has anyone gotten their clothes wet? I can bring some towels if you want. You don't need to worry about us that much. Thanks, Shannon. Oh, that's right. We were planning to play cards or something. Would you care to join us for a bit? Huh? Who had the night shift on today's schedule? I believe we had a special schedule during the family conference. Also, I think a few alterations have been made, so I will go check. Wait, if you have to go all the way back to the mansion to find out, don't force yourself. Oh, that's all right. I can find out from the servant room in the guest house. Please excuse me for a short while. Shannon gave a quick bow and went into the guest house servant room. The rest of us headed to the cousin's room and decided to put Maria to bed for the time being. Maria was sleeping very deeply, and there was absolutely no sign of her eyes opening. For now, we'd get some soft drinks out of the room's refrigerator and drank those while playing cards or something. Oh. Cannon. And you're here too, Genji. What has happened with tonight's shift? Kraus has given an order. He made some sizable changes to the shift's schedule. Indeed. Goda now has the night shift at the mansion. Shannon and Cannon have the night shift in the guest house. Kumasawa and I have been ordered to sleep in the guest house. Just now a phone call came in, saying that once you arrived, we were also to remain here for the rest of the night. Huh? That's certainly a sizable change. The shift at the guest house and the mansion have been completely reversed, haven't they? Originally, Shannon and Cannon had been assigned to the night shift in the mansion, while the night shift in the guest house, where all the relatives were staying, had been assigned to Goda, who had an abundance of experience in entertaining. Kumasawa should have been sleeping at the guest house, while Genji should have been sleeping in the mansion. However, it seems that Kraus had suddenly ordered that the schedule be modified. The shifts at the guest house and the mansion had all been reversed, and Genji was spending the night in the guest house. It's probably because of Beatrice's letter. Why, probably. After such a mysterious letter appeared, it was only natural to think Kraus would suspect one of us. We served directly under the master, so Kraus tried as best as he could to keep us away from the family conference. Genji, Shannon, and Cannon were all permitted to wear the Oshiromiya family crest, the one-winged eagle, as the servants who served directly under Kinzo. Of course, since they were all working for the Oshiromiya family, they had to obey anyone's orders, but their only boss was Kinzo. Since only Kinzo held the right to employ them, even Kraus could not have them dismissed of his own accord. Because of this, Kraus and the others often viewed these servants as Kinzo's underlings and shunned them. And in fact, Kinzo seldom let anyone other than them enter his study. This sudden change was probably a clear expression of the sense of mistrust that had caused. Considering the time Kinzo had left to live, this would definitely be the last family conference before the problem of the inheritance came up. On top of that, the mysterious letter that claimed to be from Beatrice had dropped in out of the blue. Kraus definitely wanted to keep Kinzo's loyal subjects away from the table of such a delicate and important discussion. If you would excuse me, I will go rest. If anything happens, call me immediately. Our guest tonight is a special case, after all. Yes, certainly, Genji. Genji nodded back, went behind a screen, and took off his jacket, and slowly began to relax after a day's worth of tension. The ones who just returned, were they the children? Yes. The other relatives have a conference in the mansion. It looked like it would drag on for quite some time. Then we've got it easy. It's already this late and there's this weather. The rest of the relatives will probably spend the night in their rooms in the mansion. Yes, probably. I'm only saying this because Genji isn't around, but I'm a little happy I was sent to the guest house, I guess. Oh? Why is that? Because you can stay away from the Madam and Eva, those bullies? Or do you have other reasons? It's not that I have another reason. I see. Then let's do our best together with our night shift. I'm counting on you, big sis. Just now, I was asked to go to the children's room and play with them. Shannon hung her head apologetically, gazing at Cannon's uncertainty. Cannon didn't try to meet her gaze and spoke curtly as he sighed. It looked like he didn't plan on indulging his sister. You can't. You were assigned to the night shift. Besides which, it isn't necessary for furniture like us to respond to an invitation to play. You understand, right? Yes, I do understand. Shannon's shoulders drooped slightly. She already expected that Cannon, a stickler for rules, would say something like that, but she still seemed a little discouraged. As Cannon flipped through a logbook, he spoke without facing Shannon. That means the children will be waiting for you. You'll have to apologize and tell them you have a night shift and won't be able to stay with them. Go and come back. Huh? Yes. I'll go apologize and come back. Shannon hurriedly stood from her seat before her brother's mood could change and flew out the servant's room after giving a quick bow. As he watched her go, Cannon took a single deep breath. Genji's voice came from beyond the screen. Cannon, I will be here so you can go too. Genji. Shannon was the only one called. It was not as though I was invited. That is only because you were not there at the time. If you had been, you would have been invited as well. It is good to play as a child from time to time. No, such things are not necessary for me. Human children may have a need to play, but we are furniture. Is that so? Big sister is also furniture. Even if she pretends to be a person, it will only hurt her later. I understand that, so I try not to get too close to people. That is all. Genji did not say anything after that. After a while, he stood up and used a pot of hot water to make powdered cocoa, serving some to Cannon as well.
Cocoa. I love cocoa.
Is that for real? I had no clue. Dumbass, you're too loud. You'll wake up Maria. Battler was so surprised that he yelled obnoxiously and scattered his cards everywhere. His voice caused Maria to turn over once, but she soon fell back into a deep sleep. Jessica gave him a jab, and he lowered his voice. Still, seriously, now that you mention it, they really did have that kind of atmosphere, didn't they? Now I see. So George couldn't be seen anywhere in the room. A short while ago, when Shannon came into the room, George suddenly said that he had forgotten something in the mansion and needed to go back to get it. Shannon said she would guide him, just like she had on the way to the guest house, and the two of them departed together. Well, there's actually been signs of it for a while now. You know, questions about hobbies and favorite things. I always thought it was a bit much for a passing interest, and look what happened now. Come to think of it, I get the feeling George has always been overly nice to Shannon. Now I get it.
He likes her. He thinks she's pretty.
Excuse me. According to the weather report, it looks like it'll be at its worst tonight. It also seems it'll last all day tomorrow, although it should get a little bit better.
Really? Then maybe the boats won't arrive until the day after tomorrow. I hope that doesn't interfere with your work on Monday.
I already knew the typhoon would be coming beforehand. He has an attraction to furniture, weird fetish, but I guess I shouldn't judge. For real. Just in case, I made sure I didn't have any plans on Monday, so it's okay. I may not look like it, but I really am the type who can plan ahead in his schedule. George puffed out his chest, acting proud. Compared to the calm appearance George always had as the oldest cousin, he now looked amusingly like a little kid. Shannon chuckled at this abrupt contrast. It's no surprise you're so well prepared, as someone who will bring prosperity to his company someday. Well, making a company prosper really is a tough job. Money isn't the only thing that's important. I learned that well when studying under my father. Making a company prosper is like owning a castle and leading your subordinates. My dad really loves reading about great leaders during the warring periods of Japan, a hobby that's probably influenced by the fact that he shares Toyotomi Hideyoshi's name. Much of his philosophy on managing businesses comes from talking about them. Did you know? Did you know? Takeda Shingen, who was feared as the leader of the strongest cavalry corps in the warring period, started out with his troops in complete disarray and didn't have the kind of strong leadership necessary to utilize them well.
Is that true? That's a little unexpected.
In order to unite his troops, Shingen showed his excellent leadership in many ways. For example, when a soldier succeeded well in battle, he would immediately honor them with a medal. Normally, that kind of thing was put off until after the war, and they were all awarded at once. He continued this diligently while on the field of battle, and immediately showing his appreciation for his troops' military exploits motivated them in an extremely significant fashion. I agree with this. I agree with this method of managing. Also, whenever one of his troops was brought down by an illness, he would be the first to rush up to them and care for them, and so on. I also agree with that. Takeda Shingen wasn't just the man who led the strongest cavalry corps in the warring period. He was the person who cared the most for his troops throughout that era. And because he was the kind of person, all of his troops went along with him. The truth was, Shannon had already heard this story several years ago. But whenever a discussion of his father led to this sort of topic, George would always glow and look like he was having a great time. So Shannon just smiled without interrupting, urging him to continue. Of course, in a capitalist world, money determines both your strength and your height in your fortifications. But you can't build up a castle or succeed in war by yourself. Such things can only be accomplished with the support of many subordinates by borrowing their strengths. After understanding this, when I look at my father's back, I realize how immature I am. I can clearly see how much competition he has to overcome before building up to all he has now.
George, you truly look up to your father. I'm jealous.
Sorry, that's not how I meant it.
I'm sorry. That's not how I meant it either.
The two of them awkwardly looked at their feet. Shannon had no parents. She had been brought up in an orphanage owned by Kinzu called the Fukuen House. Under the guidance of Kinzo, their honorary director, the orphanage offered members who excelled at chance for on-the-job servicing experience. If their efforts met with Kinzo's approval, they'd be able to leave the orphanage and work as servants for the Oshiromiya family. This was considered to be the highest honor for those who lived in the orphanage. Servants from the Fuken house all took names with the character on in them while they served. So Shannon wasn't her real name. The same went for Cannon. All of the members of the Fuken house were orphans. At least they were all people who had been separated from their parents under special circumstances. Because of this, the orphans had been taught to think of each other as their family. That's why it seemed only natural for both of them when Cannon called Shannon his sister. And while both Shannon and Cannon were working in the mansion today, there were several other servants possessing the on character in their names, such as Manon and Lennon, who often worked in rotation schedule. However, there were not many servants who stayed with the Oshiromiya family for long. It was standard for them to quit after 3 years. So you could probably say that Shannon, who had been working for 10 years, was a notable exception to the rule. Working as a servant for the Oshiromiya family was a heavy burden to bear, but the pay wasn't bad at all. Working for a full 3 years would earn you more than what is needed to enter mainstream society. That was why, even though the orphans realized what a harsh task working for the Oshiromiya family was, they still hoped to be accepted. Maybe the fact that Shannon managed to continue working for 10 years wasn't because she had more willpower than the other servants. Maybe she had gotten stuck working for 10 years because she didn't have the courage to say she wanted to quit. Kinzo couldn't even trust his own blood relatives, and these excellent servants sent from the Fukujin house were the only ones he could rely on. Fukuen. Because of that, Kinzo would sometimes allow them to wear the family crest as servants under his direct control and have them work close to him. You've been working here for almost 10 years now, right? You must have saved up a lot of money by now.
I wonder. It's not like there's anything in particular I'd like to buy. After all, a few million yen isn't worth enough to live off for the rest of your life.
So the reason you've been working all this time wasn't to hit some target sum?
Yes, that's right. I have nowhere to go outside this mansion, and I have been getting along well with Milady and the other young servants. The madam does scold me sometimes, but caring for the roses and cleaning the mansion is fun.
But that can't be your entire life, Shannon. No, Sayo. Shannon cast her eyes down when she heard her real name. She understood what George was trying to say and fell silent. There's something I've learned as I continue to study, even after becoming an adult and full-fledged member of society. A human's life is not as monotonous or short as we thought when we were kids. All school-age kids have certain fears they can't shake. They wonder whether they'll live the rest of their lives like sleepy classes after a monotonous and boring school day, spending their time in a carefree laziness without anything interesting happening until it's all over. However, life's only like that for underage students. Compared to a human's life, The time they spend as students is nothing more than a blink of an eye, a period where they break through the shell of their immaturity. The inside of the shell might be a hot, suffocating, and boring world, but the world beyond that shell is vast and filled with limitless possibilities. So far, your life has been trapped inside the shell called Shannon. I think you're under the mistaken impression that your life will continue like this forever.
That's...
Shannon couldn't deny those words. She had been unable to harbor any clear doubts about her lifestyle, and since she never had any hope or goals for changing herself, she lazily continued living the way she always had. And asked whether this life was satisfying, she wouldn't have been able to nod. She may have been unintentionally averting her eyes from the truth. Without George's admonishments, she would have continued pretending not to notice as her real life slipped away bit by bit, neglected.
George, it is wrong for me to continue living this way?
Yes, it is. Oh, and by the way, didn't you break one of our rules just now? George immediately gave a strict answer, then broke out into a mischievous smile. Shannon already knew she was being chided for what she was being chided for, and she hung her head again, apparently embarrassed. Didn't you promise not to use the Sama when the two of us are alone? Stairs and I date everything simulator. For real.
I couldn't obey that as a promise, but if it were an order, I would have to obey it because I am furniture.
Then it's an order.
Yes, certainly, George.
As Shannon hung her head, her face red, she said George's name again, this time followed with a San. Yes, that's fine, Sayo. George smiled at Sayo, to praise her small act of bravery. This short exchange alone made it clear how far back their relationship must have stretched. For a long while, the two talked as if the weather raging about them didn't even enter their thoughts. They talked about the memories they had built during their relationship that no one else knew about. Every once in a while, a flash of lightning would attempt to interrupt them, but they could sully neither the roses nor the time they spent blushing at each other. Duh. So cool.
Get water.
That's right. I have something I wanted to show you.
What could it be?
George, who had been speaking eloquently, suddenly started to stutter. Watching him, Shannon seemed to guess something. George timidly searched through his pocket. Something caught in the depth of his pocket, and just like the stuttering George, it took a little while to get it out. It was a very small box, covered in a deep blue velvet. That particular shape was enough to tell anyone what was resting inside. Shannon had prepared her heart somewhat, certain beforehand that this was what he had been planning. But even so, when she actually saw it, she couldn't avoid blushing once more. George opened the small box, took something out, and held it out for Shannon to take. I want you to take this.
I couldn't accept anything so valuable.
You can't take it.
No, I'm unworthy of such a thing.
Sayo, this isn't a request. It's an order. Take this ring, okay?
If it's an order, I cannot disobey.
Yes, that's right. Well done. Shannon, not wanting to show her bright red face, timidly accepted the ring from George's hand while still staring at the ground. That ring wasn't a simple accessory. It was a noble object, meant since ancient times to be offered to a special woman under a special circumstance. Therefore, while George could order her to take it, he could not order anything beyond that. Anything beyond that would depend not on an order, but on Shannon, no, Sayo's own will. So from here on, I'm not ordering you anymore. Sayo, I want you to give me your answer by tomorrow, without using words. Do you understand? That would have been cute if he didn't order her to take it. She wouldn't have taken it anyway because she's the servant to the family. I know what you mean. But he literally knows she would have been like, I cannot accept this. But now he's like, I want you to make your decision. So it's not like, don't worry.
How should I?
I won't order you anything further. Or I won't order you any further, so this isn't an order. But a ring is something you put on your finger after all. If you like it, you can just put it on any finger you choose. Shannon had only pretended not to know. She already understood what he wanted her to do. But she was standing at a huge crossroads of her life. Look how late it's gotten. Let's call it a day. George turned away from Shannon, acting just a bit bluntly. Oh, my bun is technically hidden in my hat, but
All my hair is up. Thank you. Thank you.
I could probably order you to wear it on your left hand. You might be timid and dependent enough to actually obey that kind of order. But I want at least this last step to be done by your own will, Sayo. Understand?
Yes.
So, that's my order. I want you to think about it well tonight and show me your answer tomorrow. Shannon nodded back. What game did I come into? Oh my god. It's a timepiece game. It is old. But I promise you, don't worry about it. Today was a accumulation of their many days spent together. Basically, okay, to make this seem a little less weird, she knows she's not supposed to interact with him in this kind of way. And so she keeps saying, I cannot do that. That is against the rules for me to do. So he keeps going, okay, well, it is an order as the master of the situation. And she's like, oh, okay. But now he's like, well, now that you have this, I can't order you anymore. So please, if you could decide on your own what you want to do from here and let me know tomorrow, I'll appreciate that. And then she goes, okay. But they've had a long relationship for like years of, because she serves his grandfather. Okay? I mean, you can red flag it all you want to. I don't know. I'm not explaining it anymore. This moment certainly hadn't come as a surprise to Shannon. We should be getting back to the guest house soon. He really into the furniture. Yeah, he's willing to marry the furniture. If we take any longer, we'll make everyone worry about us.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just remembered something I had to do in the mansion, so, I'll have to go back to the mansion.
At a time like this? Is that true? George stared at Shannon's face as he laughed mischievously. He definitely saw through Shannon's lie. However, when he saw how she felt, he could sort of understand that she might be so embarrassed that she'd want to be left alone. So, because George realized the meaning behind Shannon's lie, he accepted it. Anyway, this is a subplot anyway, it doesn't matter. A very small subplot. Shannon entered the entrance hall to the mansion with a tottering gait. A mixture of exultation and uncertainty gave her a feeling that she couldn't easily describe. It swelled up in her chest until it felt like she was about to burst. After stopping for a second in front of the servant room to take a deep breath and calm her heart, she opened the door. Inside, Goda, who had been ordered to take the midnight shift at the mansion tonight, was absorbed in a worn-out crossword puzzle magazine. He looked up for an instant to see if one of the family had come, but when he realized it was a fellow servant, he returned to his puzzle as if nothing happened.
Genji told me to come and help you.
Ah, is that so? That's a relief. I was just about to go check that the mansion was fully locked up, but I felt uneasy about leaving this room unmanned. After all, Kraus and the others' meeting looks as though it will continue for quite some time. They might request some tea at any moment.
That's true. Then what shall we do? Should I watch over?
In that case, forgive me, Shannon, but I'll ask that you patrol the mansion. I will stay here awaiting the family's orders.
Yes.
Shannon was slightly disgusted. Even though she had come here to help out as a favor, she was casually being forced to do the job of the person actually on duty. That's a mood. Furthermore, after one-sidedly forcing that task onto her, Goda returned to his magazine once again and became immersed in his crossword puzzle. Blech. Blech. Mood. Shannon bowed her head as a token sigh of respect for her elder and then left the room to patrol the mansion. Thanks to her being a bit ticked off, she managed to suppress that floaty feeling she had been having until just now. And anyway, she couldn't let Genji or Cannon see her looking like this. She wanted a little time to herself until her heart calmed down, so maybe going on patrol wouldn't be so bad. She began to hear the tumultuous voice of the family discussion coming from the dining hall. Someone was speaking at great length, only to be interrupted by someone else. This second person also began to speak in a very long, drawn-out fashion, yet another person interrupted. That kept on repeating. It was as though their displeasure was seeping out through their voices. She had been told to go to the guest house, so it would be bad if Kraus discovered her. Thinking this, Shannon dashed past the dining hall. Then she went along a prearranged route through the dark mansion, checking that all the locks were secure. She walked down the hall, checking each window. There were no humans on Rokinjima other than those connected to the family, so locking up didn't really serve much of a purpose. No one had been in the habit of locking up at the Oshiromiya head family, at least not until Natsuhi had scolded them for being careless. The metal fixtures on the windows were ice cold, and she had checked them one by one, the glow in her heart seeming to cool down. Oh. At that time, she thought she saw something twinkling across the hall. Twinkling? How could anything be twinkling through the darkness of the hall? She figured she must have imagined it, but she still held her breath. Grasping a curtain, she fearfully gazed down the hall. However, other than the occasional crack of thunder brightening the hall, she was unable to glimpse any flicker again. It must have been her imagination after all. Maybe her heart was so agitated that she'd seen something that didn't even exist. Shannon went back to checking the windows. However, a certain unnerving memory was resurrected in the back of her mind. It was that ghost story which had been passed down among the servants who served the Oshiromiya head family. Hydrate, okay. The mansion had 2 different masters, one of the day and one of the night. Beatrice, the master of the night, would sometimes fly around the mansion in the form of sparkling butterflies. That was the story. Come to think of it, didn't Cannon once say he had seen it with his own eyes? Though he got sulky when I said he must have imagined it and refused to believe him. Could it possibly be true? The roar of the thunder gave no answer. Oh dear. Oh dear. Spooky. The sound mixing in this game is like really good. Also, the background music is so freaking good. Hi, Beatrice. What's good? Well, they're showing everybody. I didn't see Maria though, unless I missed that. All the pieces are in place. What will you see on the game board? Oh. Oh dear. Oh. Okay. The second day, October 5th, 1986. Oh. Genji tightened his bow tie and looked outside through a crack in the curtains. Maybe the rain had died down a tiny bit since the previous night. But the thick rain clouds didn't seem like they'd be letting any traces of the morning sun get by. Water important to voice actors. True. I'm not a voice actor, but true. The morning was dim and far from refreshing. It seems it will last all day after all. Sorry for keeping you waiting, Genji. Cannon finished checking his appearance and exited the washroom. Why does he care about his appearance if he's furniture? No. On their normal schedule, it was rare for anyone to have to suffer going straight from a midnight shift to an early morning shift. They were on a special schedule for the 2 days of the family conference. However, unless the typhoon passed today, the relatives' stay on their island would last until tomorrow. Cannon thought it best to be prepared for the special schedule to last an extra day. The two of them left the guest house, opening their umbrellas. The rose garden had been devastated by the wind and rain on the previous night. Even though they spent several days making it beautiful to welcome the guests, One stormy night was enough to ruin it. You are voicing over text, then voice actor, boom, mic drop. JK just teasing well. Well, if that's all it takes. Everybody can be a voice actor. You can be a voice actor, and you can be a voice actor. Come one, come all. Cannon sighed. The two headed for the mansion. They were supposed to meet up with Goda and prepare breakfast. Goda was such a perfectionist that he had probably already woken up and was probably already preparing breakfast as exquisite and elegant as glasswork. They reached the overhang by the entrance to the mansion and folded up their umbrellas. It'd be like that. Genji took a bundle of several keys from his pocket and unlocked the front door. We can be anything at this point. You're so right. I too can be an elephant if I wanted to. I'm going to be a rocket scientist right now. Okay. The Oshiramiya family mansion was the only thing on Rokenjima, so in the past they hadn't been in the habit of locking up. However, Natsuhi had ordered that the mansion be locked up from midnight to early morning. Ever since then, unlocking the door in the early mornings had become part of the servants' morning shifts. This task had been given to Genji and Cannon so that Goda could start preparing breakfast as soon as he woke up. Silence had fallen in the mansion, giving the impression that the mansion itself was still asleep. Well, then, let us begin the morning chores. Yes, sir. The two of them split up and began opening the curtains throughout the mansion. If the curtains stayed closed, the mansion would remain enveloped in faint darkness, as though it was still trapped in the previous night. Following a well-rehearsed procedure, Cannon went around the mansion, opening the curtains for one window after another without having to retrace his steps once. Even with this horrible weather, drawing the curtains made it feel a little bit like morning. While doing that, he passed in front of the kitchen. Even though he hadn't smelt anything yet, his stomach started aching for some of Goda's prized cooking. Good morning. He tried to greet Goda, who should have been getting breakfast ready, but Goda was nowhere to be seen. The kitchen was darkly lit, and not only were the curtains not open, but the fan wasn't even running. It was still cold, without any traces of a fire being lit, so of course there were no signs of breakfast being made either. Though it would have been inexcusable, perhaps Goda had overslept. Even servants are only human. They sometimes sleep and show up late. In the rare case that such a thing happens, it's part of a servant's code to hide the unsightly scene before anyone notices, smoothly covering it up, and make sure the family never realizes that anything had gone wrong. Cannon took the receiver of the phone that had been fitted to the wall and dialed the number for the extension line in the servant's sleeping room. He couldn't hear the characteristic sound of a dial tone. Cannon tried picking up the receiver again, but even so, he couldn't hear the usual dial tone. He tried dialing again, but it had no apparent effect. Excuse me. Could the lightning last night have damaged some machine, breaking the extension line? The equipment in the mansion was all worn out. Cannon fully understood that even the smallest thing could have caused it to break down. He gave up trying to wake Goda with the phone and dashed over to the servant's sleeping room. How long has it been since I stopped sleeping and started lazily staring up at the ceiling? That vague sense of awakening was part of Natsuhi's usual morning experience. She always slept lightly, and she couldn't sleep at all without medicine. To Natsuhi, sleep was definitely not a happy thing. When she looked outside, she saw that it was still pouring. If she hadn't sensed a tiny amount of light, she might have mistakenly thought that it was still the previous night. She herself was one of the hosts, so she mustn't wake up later than her guests. Urging herself on, she raised up her body, which still hadn't completely recovered from yesterday's weariness. No one would torment her as long as she remained inside this room, and her headache wouldn't get any worse here. This room was the only place she could find peace. So when she left, it meant returning to the world where her husband's siblings kept trying to stab each other in the back. In that case, wouldn't it be better just to stay locked up in this room forever? That ridiculous notion brought a bitter smile to Natsuhi's face. She was starting to sound like Kinzo. Though she often complained about Kinzo staying locked up in his own room and refusing to attend it to anyone else, the truth was that she longed to do the same thing. Natsuhi gave her head a small shake, and her fantasy was replaced by the reawakening of her usual headache. When she reached for the doorknob, trying to leave the room, her hand touched the scorpion charm that she hung from it before going to sleep the previous night. It was Maria's charm, which Natsuhi had received from Jessica. Didn't Jessica say something about it having the power to repel magic, telling her to hang it from her doorknob? Maybe it was thanks to the charm that at least this room had been protecting her from malice of her husband's siblings. As she thought about this, her mood began to get a little more cheerful. I wonder if I have Jessica to thank for the little bit of peaceful sleep I managed to receive. Then Natsuhi remembered. That's right. Last night I promised Jessica that I'd give her a charm of my own in exchange for this one, didn't I? Natsuhi opened her drawer on her dresser and took out an antique accessory case that she had treasured when she was a child. Inside, there were many small objects that Natsuhi had thought were valuable at the time. From amidst those, she pulled out a red pouch. Inside was a small round mirror about 10 centimeters across. It looked quite old, but the design on the back of the mirror was very ornate, and it felt like something with historical value. At the very least, it seemed much more authentic than the other charm, which looked like a plastic scorpion keychain. She had heard that this was a spiritual mirror for warding off evil spirits, and she had been given it specifically by her grandmother when her grandfather's mementos had been distributed. It had been believed since long ago that a strange power resided in this mirror. Perhaps people thought it could reflect calamity and malice in the same way it reflected light. Natsuhi returned the mirror to its pouch. It would probably be a fitting object to hand over to Jessica. Just as she was placing it in her pocket, the sound of someone knocking on the door suddenly echoed through the room. Yes. Good morning, madam. It is Genji. My apologies for waking you so early. I am coming now. What is it? No servant had ever come to her this early in the morning, nor had they come to wake her up in person. Perhaps something bad had happened. Maybe some fatal oversight had been made while preparing breakfast, something that would shame the household in front of their guests. Natsuhi took a deep breath in anticipation for whatever troubles she was about to hear of. When she opened the door, Genji once again gave a morning greeting while bowing deeply. Natsuhi's tentatively responded, Good morning. Did something happen? My apologies. It would seem that the telephones have broken down due to the lightning last night. The extension telephone isn't working, so please forgive me coming to see you directly. The extension telephone isn't working. That will be troublesome. Will it be possible to fix it? I am afraid we don't know of the location of the damage. Later on, I would like to call in an expert and have him repair it. Does this mean we'll be unable to have it repaired until after the typhoon passes? Then I will remain broken down for the duration of our guest's stay. Will that hamper our efforts to care for our guests? We will do all we can to ensure there are no problems. Very well. I'm counting on you to make sure we have no blunders. Natsuhi let out a small sigh of relief. She had been preparing for the worst, but damage to the telephones wasn't the kind of trouble she was worried about. Then again, even this would probably be enough to spark sarcasm from Eva. Blah, blah, blah. Natsuhi gave her head a light shake. Are the preparations for breakfast proceeding well? As to that, we haven't been able to find Goda. The arrangements for breakfast haven't yet been carried out. What did you say? Natsuhi was indignant. To her, this was a much bigger problem than the phone's not working. And despite that, this piece of information was the part that had been postponed. Why did everything go well most of the time and then come to something like this when the relatives were visiting? Natsuhi put her hand on her forehead and shook her head. Get out the generator so that the kids can play the PS1 for real. That was a mood during hurricanes. Yes. Excuse me. Well, I suppose he slept in. At any rate, just see to it that someone hurried up and prepared breakfast. I don't care who. What? Natsuhi exited into the hall and turned around for a second to close the door to her room. The creepy thing she saw there silenced her completely. It was an unpleasant sight, as though someone had dipped their fingers in a reddish-black liquid and scratched at the door around the knob. It was probably some sort of awful prank, arranged by some person who wanted to make it look as though they tried to force the door with bloody hands. What sort of prank is this? How awful! I just noticed it as I came to call you. I will clean it later. Perhaps this is a vulgar joke by one of the guests. Disgusting. Truly disgusting. You did that with the N64? Bro. Who in the world would pull such a childish and disgusting prank? Natsuki had a pretty good idea, but of course there was no proof. So even if she pushed the issue, it would just seem as though she was making a fuss about nothing. In fact, it would surely be better to act as though she hadn't even realized that such a prank had been played on her. Natsuhi gave the order to have it cleaned and headed off to the parlor with a squeak of her heels. When Natsuhi and Genji arrived in the parlor, Eva and Hideyoshi were already there. Good morning, everyone. Morning, Natsuhi. I heard Goda would be making us some breakfast, too. My stomach's been getting all excited since I woke up. After all, it seems food is all you can look forward to at the head family household. I'm pleased to see that you two are in high spirits so early in the morning, Eva. With a weary expression, Natsuhi returned Eva's gaze, which was fiercely competitive despite the early hour. Then Cannon jogged in. After bowing an apology to the relatives for running inside the mansion, he noticed Genji and told him something in a small voice. Cannon, have you still not found Goda? My apologies, madam. I went all over the inside of the mansion and the guest house, but I still haven't found him. Where in the world has he gone?
Oh.
Hi! Hello! Welcome! Welcome, Raiders! Welcome, Glenn! How was your stream? How was City of Heroes? It was the last day for your Halloween event, right? How did that go? Was it good? We're finally at the spooky part, so I'm going a little bit longer. Punk Fairy Ray, woo! Good. I'm exhausted. Oh, if you need to go to sleep, or if you need to, like, get some water and stretch or whatever, like, go do that. For all of the raiders, I am Kifé. I am mostly artist. I do most of Gwen's artwork stuff, give or take. And I made my own model and branding. I am currently reading a visual novel. And yeah, it's just cozy, spooky hours. So I hope you enjoy your stay.
Gamazel, can you give a shout out to Gwen? If you're still here. I don't know if you're still here. If not, Eli, can you? Where in the world has he gone? At any rate, breakfast is a higher priority than finding Goda right now. See to it immediately. Yes. Kenan glanced at Genji. It seemed he had something else to report, but was uncertain whether or not the words should come from him. Genji nodded and decided to give the report himself. Madam, it is not only Goda. Your husband is also nowhere to be found. My husband? Yes. Even before visiting you, I went to his room to tell him that breakfast wasn't being prepared, but I did not find him there. How do I do that? Oh, I think it's just I shout out. Hold on. Or exclamation point. Shout out. Gwyneth Dolan. There we go. Yeah, it's exclamation mark shout out and then the name of the handle. I learned that from Gamazel, so don't think I know things. Gamazel has taught me a lot in the streaming world lately, and Gwen has taught me a lot in the tech world lately. Furthermore, he is not the only one missing. Rudolph, his wife, and Rosa are nowhere to be found. Not in the guest house? Nor the mansion? Yes, they were not in their rooms in the guest house either. When she heard that Goda alone was missing, she assumed that he had slept in or was loafing around somewhere. However, now that she learned that several of the relatives were also nowhere to be seen, she began to take a slightly more optimistic view. Could last night's family conference have continued all night, up until the present moment? If so, they might have wanted to cool their heads after being shot off in the stuffy room, going out for walks on their own through the rain. The part about cooling their heads really sounded like something Kraus would say. Goda had probably been summoned to accompany them and aid them in some way. Goda was not a man who lost track of time. He had to understand that preparing for breakfast would be hindering if he did not return. However, maybe the family conference had continued until this very moment, with an atmosphere that would make it hard for anyone to slip out. Yes, that's a theory that would be quite convincing for Natsuhi. She remembered the illusion she felt that morning, as though the previous night had never ended. When she learned that the feeling wasn't just an illusion, she once again took a deep, wary breath. After all, the banquet of filthy vultures circling Kinzo's property was still going on. Perhaps they are still discussing the inheritance somewhere in the garden, or maybe the beach. At any rate, if we don't call Goda back, we'll never be able to begin preparations for breakfast. So what are you saying? Our big brother and the rest still continuing their discussion? She planned to say it in a small voice, but Hideyoshi overheard Natsuhi and managed to grasp the situation. Big brother and Rudolph sure are tough. Maybe it's just youth in Rose's case. Just a bit after midnight, the two of us were so tired we were headed back to bed. Though I do remember that Big Brother and the rest were still having a heated discussion at that point. Men certainly are unpleasant when they get all fired up. Natsuhi snorted, her face still blank. Kenan, search outside. If you find Goda, tell him to return immediately and begin preparing breakfast. Certainly. Natsuhi, we don't know for sure that they're outside, do we? Couldn't they also be inside Father's study? I see, that's certainly a possibility. I don't know what path their conversation took, but there certainly is a chance they moved to Father's study and let him in on the discussion. I can't imagine that Father would willingly let them bring such a despicable topic to his study. You really think so? Well then, there's nothing we can do. I'm sorry, Genji and Kenan, but could you search outside?
It wouldn't be that strange for Big Brother to suggest they go outside for a walk to cool their heads, even in this weather. I'll go to Father's study. Who knows, they might actually be there after all. Eva, I couldn't ask a guest like you to exert yourself so. I will go. I also wish him a good morning while I'm at it. Oh, then I'll leave it in your hands. Though I somehow doubt he'll return your greeting. Natsuhi, you've always been on such good terms with Father? I don't know where you could call it that, but I'm sure that I've gained his trust as the wife of the successor to the Oshiromiya family. Then I'm sure he'll at least answer you, right? I'd like to at least have breakfast with Father. Do you think you could convince him to come down and join us? It seems that he thoroughly despises the rest of us, but I'm sure he'll listen to you, if he trusts you that much. After speaking so boldly, if you're unable to convince Father to come down alone, then I doubt you'll ever be able to claim that you've earned his trust again. I'm not confident, but I will try. Natsuhi responded, looking discouraged. However, knowing Kinzo's temperament, she had absolutely no confidence in her ability to bring him out. Eva was clearly mocking her, confident that Natsuhi wouldn't be able to get Kinzo to come down. But even so, Natsuhi would lose face if she gave up, so it was impossible to let Eva go instead. Eva, mean-spirited and unreasonable demand made Natsuhi clench her fist lightly. When Genji realized this, he softly spoke to her over her shoulder. Madam, please take this if you would. And this is? Genji handed Natsuhi a sparkling gold key of ornate design. It was the key to Kinzo's study. The study had an auto-lock and couldn't be unlocked as long as Kinzo forbade entrance. However, since Genji was especially trusted by Kinzo, he was allowed to carry a key to that door. But if this key is used, won't you also receive the blame? When the master is sleeping deeply, simply knocking on the door will not suffice, and it would be more difficult to persuade the master to leave his room if you must talk through the door. Please use this. Genji. Until now, Natsuhi had thought of Genji as a cold servant who wouldn't do anything for her, since he worked directly under Kinzo. But it looked like she would have to alter her understanding of him. She wanted to communicate her gratitude, but by then Genji had already turned his back to her and was walking down the corridor with Cannon. But as Natsuhi watched him go, the words directed at her from behind were sneering. Well then, you must bring Father with you, okay? After all, it's his son's precious wife who's asking. I'm sure he'll listen to you. We're guests, so we'll just relax here at our leisure. Quit it, Eva. You're taking this too far. Sorry, Natsuhi, but we're counting on you to deal with Father. Without answering, Natsuhi forcefully spun around on her heels and quickly left that place. Oh dear. After all that excitement the previous night, there was no way anyone was going to wake up early. George, Jessica, and I snoring loudly on the beds in the cousin's room, but Maria, who had gone straight to bed without joining, was completely awake. As she rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked around, she was met with loud snoring of all the other three cousins. For a while, Maria had to think about what had happened. After that, she realized that her mother wasn't with her, and she quickly got lonely. Maria left the cousin's room, trying to head to the room that had been arranged for her and her mother. Paying no heed to the three who were sleeping soundly, she slammed the door shut. In response, Battler mumbled and rolled over in his sleep, but it wasn't enough to wake him up. After a while, Maria returned, once again, opening the door with a lively bang. When she had left the room, her face had been sleepy, but now that she was back, she looked irritated.
After that, she climbed up on Battler's bed, which happened to be the closest, and started yelling and jumping on it like it was a trampoline.
Oh, oh, oh! Wake up! Oh, oh, oh!
What? Is it an enemy raid? Surround them! After making sure I was awake, Maria moved over to George's bed and started jumping on that too. In that manner, the three of us were all greeted with an extremely unpleasant awakening. Thanks for waking us up, Maria. You stopped us from sleeping in after that late night. If only you could have been a bit more gentle about it. George, you really are an adult. I respect that. It'll be 7 soon. Well, it's not really a bad time to wake up. Oh.
Oh, Mama's not here. Oh, oh, oh!
Aunt Rosa? She wasn't in her room? I wonder if she's already woken up and gone to the mansion.
Not here. Oh, oh, oh! Mama! Oh, oh, oh!
Maria kept groaning, ooh, and looking unhappy. She didn't exactly seem lonely because her mother wasn't around. It was more like she was irritated and thrown off balance because her mother wasn't where she expected. If we could tell her where her mother was, that alone would probably calm her down. But unfortunately, we had no way of knowing where Aunt Rosa was, except that she wasn't here.
Anyway, it's time for breakfast, so let's head over to the mansion.
That's right. Maria, let's go to the mansion together, okay? I'm sure Aunt Rosa will be there too.
Oh? Mama's in the mansion? Then I'll go there. Oh.
Yeah, I guess we should go to the mansion. Our parents have probably already gone there. Maria regained her usual composure so completely, her earlier tantrum now seemed like a lie. We got dressed, left the room, and headed for the mansion. Once more, there was a knocking sound on the study door, but there was no answer.
He seems to be sleeping still, and I could not wake him.
If she went back downstairs and said something like that, Eva would probably be amused and triumphant. And even putting Eva aside, it was problematic that Kinzo had stayed shut away during this entire once-a-year conference, not even coming down to greet anyone. Even the family head, no, especially that family head, couldn't fail to make an appearance. I wonder if I can convince him myself. Natsuhi readied herself and used the key that she had borrowed from Genji to open the door. Even though she was prepared for the sweet stench, which seemed to eat into one's brains as it poured out the small crack of the door, she couldn't help but grimace. Thinking that he might still be sleeping, Natsuhi entered the room quietly. When she did, Kinzo was already awake and looking down out of the window.
So you're awake. Good morning.
How did you get in? Kinzo spoke with his back still facing her. His voice was not harsh, but calm, and Natsuhi was slightly reassured. However, though he was awake, he wouldn't have ignored all that knocking if he was in a good mood. Natsuhi wasn't able to relax.
My sincere apologies. I asked Genji, and he allowed me to borrow the key to the study.
Genji did? If my friend thought it was that important, then I have no choice but to listen. So, what business do you have with me?
Well, breakfast will be ready soon, and I would greatly appreciate it if you would join us.
I will eat here. Have it brought here like always.
But Father, this family conference happens only once a year. Please, at least let them see your face.
Go back downstairs. Are you asking me to join in as they discuss how to chew up my inheritance after I die? How foolish. Let them speak of such matters as much as they please without me. And if that's what you call my family conference, it's hardly worth leaving my room for it. I am busy. Do not bother me. His last words carried the threat that any further questions would not be appreciated. Natsuhi realized that adding any further pleas would finally bring his wrath down upon her. She didn't look forward to facing Eve with sarcasm, but there was nothing more that Natsuhi could do.
Is that so? Understood. I am sure everyone will be sorry to hear it, but I will tell them.
Natsuhi decided to give up. Bowing slightly, she tried to leave the room before Kinzo's spasmodic temper could flare up. As she did, Kinzo spoke to her. His voice was so calm and gentle, it felt like it came from an entirely different person. Natsuhi, it has been quite some time since you married into the Oshiromiya family.
Yes. It had been many years since I was first permitted to bear the name Oshiromiya.
Do you sometimes long for your previous family?
No. Marriage means abandoning your birth family. I am Oshiromiya Natsuhi. The Oshiromiya family is the only family I can come home to, and the only one I am fond of.
Hi. Hello. She truly wasn't exaggerating. Such was the resolve she felt whenever she applied the Oshiromiya family name to herself. And that's precisely why she was so saddened when her husband didn't treat her like an Oshiromiya, leaving her to race about in vain. If Kraus were a woman, and you his husband... No, I won't say that.
What do you mean by that, Father?
Natsuhi was shocked. If Kinzo's words were, just now were what they seemed, it would have been more than enough to make up for all that she had suffered up to at this point. Forget it. It's just the nonsense of an old man. Kinzo once again faced away from her. He told her to forget it, but Natsuhi couldn't help but feeling warmth in her heart.
Father, even though I, Natsuhi, am not connected to you by blood, I am still your daughter. I will most assuredly see to it that your honor and your glory and everything that you have left behind are protected.
You do not have the right to wear the one-winged eagle. However, the one-winged eagle is surely engraved in your heart. That is irrefutable proof that you are my blood relative, one who will inherit the glory of the Oshiromiya family. Some will sneer that there is no good eagle on your clothes, but such words are not worth lending to an ear to. Only those who hold the eagle in their heart are my true blood relatives. I will now consider it an honor that you were welcomed into the Oshiromiya family. Without saying anything more, Kinzo remained with his back to Natsuhi. However, Natsuhi couldn't help but feel something warm well up inside her that she hadn't felt since long ago, when she had been just a child. Natsuhi bowed silently to his back. And left the room. Ah, good timing. How's father? You were taking so long, so I came to check. When Natsuhi left the study, she saw Eva climbing the stairs, and their eyes met. Eva was smirking unpleasantly, thinking that Natsuhi would leave drudgingly after failing to convince Kinzo. However, the way that Natsuhi was now, such a frivolous laugh would not disturb her. She was not permitted to wear the family crest on her clothing, but she was permitted to wear it in her heart. So she spoke calmly, clearly, and confidently, with the dignity of the one who would protect the Oshiromiya family's glory.
Father said he will not join in on the family conference. He says he has no interest in discussing such obscene matters.
I figured you'd say something like that. If you failed to persuade father, just say so.
How pitiful. I'm beginning to see why father lamented so.
What do you mean by that? Natsuhi did not answer. Just as Kinzo had done earlier, she showed Eva her back and she headed down the stairs. Eva finally realized that she was being made fun of, that something had happened so quickly bolster Natsuhi's confidence. Even so, she apparently didn't have the courage to risk Kinzo's wrath. Unable to even knock on the door, she could only click her tongue, make a motion as though scratching at it, and follow after Natsuhi. So, where's Big Brother and the rest there? Did you ask Father about them?
I did not get a chance to ask, but they were not inside the study. Father would never let them into his room to discuss such a lowly topic, so it is unlikely he knows where they went. Let's go downstairs and wait for the servants to return from their search. Breakfast may be late, but how would you like some tea, Eva?
That would be fine. Eva couldn't hide her confusion at the complete difference in Natsuhi's attitude. She was acting so boldly, and while Eva hated to admit it, she even had a sense of dignity about her. Unable to find fault with anything, Eva could only follow Natsuhi back to the parlor. When the two of them returned to the parlor, Hideyoshi had been joined by the 4 children and Nanjo. Genji, who had been talking with Hideyoshi, reported the current situation when he noticed that Natsuhi had returned.
You still have not found my husband and the rest.
Yes, my apologies. Also, Kumasawa has started preparing breakfast. She said that she will just need a little longer. The clock read a little past 8 o'clock. 8 should have been the time to start breakfast. Normally, going over that time limit would be a disgrace to the host. Cannon is now searching outside. Also, no one has seen Shannon either.
Even Shannon is missing. Truly, just how many people did my husband bring with him on his little walk?
Just how many people had gone missing by now? Now that number was this large, it was starting to feel truly unpleasant, as though the people here were the only ones being left out of something interesting. At least, that seemed to reflect the feeling of the children, and Maria in particular. She was indignant, her stomach grumbling, almost as though her mother and the others had left her alone to go off and eat something delicious without her. The other children were flipping through the channels on the television, trying to find a program that might interest Maria and cheer her up. Nanjo was sitting on the sofa, gazing blissfully at the children while reading a book. Wait, how do you stare at someone and read a book? It must have been a book about chess. Okay. The sound of footsteps came rushing towards them with a pitter-patter. There was only one set, so they realized before seeing who it belonged to that it was probably Cannon, and not Kraus and the rest. Madam, excuse me.
Judging by your appearance, you still haven't been able to find them.
My apologies. I still haven't.
That will be enough. You've worked hard.
She didn't know where they were, but they had to be somewhere on this island. They hadn't had a thing to eat since the previous night, so their stomachs must be growling about now. They'd probably come plodding back of their own accord before long. By now, Natsuhi was thoroughly exasperated and started to feel that there was no reason for them to go out of their way in search.
I will go to the kitchen to prepare some tea for all the guests. Thank you both for all of your hard work so early in the morning.
Natsuhi left the parlor, acting as though the release in tension had caused a new surge in her headache. Cannon tried to call to her back, but Natsuhi left swiftly. What is it? Was there something else? Yes. I was unable to find her husband, or anyone else, but, well... Cannon sounded evasive. It looked as though he didn't know where they were, but he had spotted something that might connect to their disappearance. Eva and Hideyoshi noticed this exchange of words and came over. They had probably picked up on something strange in Cannon's behavior. What's going on, Cannon? Did you find Kraus and everyone else? Actually, the Rose Garden storehouse looked strange. What do you mean, it looks strange? It was, how should I explain it? Cannon hesitated once more. His tone wasn't at all what you'd expect from this usually fearless boy. Seeing this, Eva and Hideyoshi looked at each other dubiously. What do you mean? Are you saying Big Brother and the others were inside the storehouse? No, I'm going to inspect the inside now. I just now came back to get the key, but, I don't really get it, but it sounds like we've just gotta look around inside it. Where's the key to that storehouse? It is in the servant's room. Let us check inside the storehouse at once. Kenan dashed off to the servant's room and returned with the key. Genji left the parlor, saying that he would go check, but then Eva and Hideyoshi followed after him. What was this something strange about the storehouse that had caused that usual fearlessness that Kenan, the usual fearless Kenan to hesitate? Halloween Yumeneko, I click watch. Hello, welcome. It was still pouring outside, but perhaps their curiosity over this something that Kenan couldn't talk about won out. While the children made a big fuss watching television, Kenan and the rest dashed over to the entrance. The Rose Garden storehouse was a place that housed various tools used to manage the garden. What part are you up to? This is chapter 1 of the base game. Questions arc. And it's the second day, 8 o'clock in the morning. It was definitely not a pretty building because of its appearance. It had been built so that it was hidden in a corner of the rose garden. Kenan, Genji, Eva, and Hideyoshi came cutting across the rose garden holding umbrellas. They entered a small path just off the rose garden, which was normally off limits to those appreciating the garden and only used by those maintaining it. As they dashed down that, the storehouse came into view in front of them. It was quiet, and it was a quiet and old shed, and compared to the flawless, perfect beauty of the rose garden, it was pretty seedy looking. It was easy to understand why it had been built in a hard-to-see place. Eva and Hideyoshi arrived at the storehouse long after Kenan and Genji. You two sure are fast. I thought my heart was gonna explode. The mansion itself is a real building in Japan. Managed to check it out when I went. That's awesome. That's so cool. I did not know that. I never knew they had storehouses way over here. But what is that? When Eva looked where Kenan was pointing, she was at a loss for words. Noticing this, Hideyoshi also followed Kenan's finger and was likewise too shocked to speak. The entrance to the storehouse was a kind of shutter, and there, everyone suddenly realized why Kenan had been unable to find words to describe what they now saw. On the shutter, which was completely filthy from being exposed to wind and rain for so long, stuck right on it, there was something that looked like a strange dark red liquid? Mucus? Or maybe it was some sticky paint. An indescribably eerie shape was drawn on the shutter with some kind of ghastly substance. The rain had caused it to drip down like fresh blood leaking from an open wound. No more beating around the bush. Some kind of mark was drawn there, with a ghastly substance that looked like blood, in a shape that seemed to suggest something ominous. 2 circles were drawn there, and inside them was a design that looked like a cross. The 4 ends of the cross were widely exaggerated, and it looked like some kind of crest was somewhere around Europe. Nice to meet you. This is my first time here. I am Japanese. I am a Japanese VTuber too. It is nice to meet you too. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Damn, I tuned in at a good time. Yeah. And in the cracks between these shapes, written closely packed together, were some unfamiliar characters, or possibly symbols. What a vulgar bit of graffiti. Could this be One of those magic circles used in demonic ceremonies? It wasn't a surprise that Hideyoshi would say that about a ghastly shape, drawn with a deep red, dripping substance. I subscribe to your channel, also like button. I use a translation device, but I want to become friends with VTubers. Well, thank you very much! Thank you for subscribing, I appreciate that. And thank you for hanging out.
Arigato.
When was this made? There was nothing drawn here when I came by yesterday before it started raining. We must do something before anyone else sees this. If they laid eyes upon it, it would cause them great discomfort. That's right. Even though it's just a shed, I wouldn't want to leave such an unpleasant piece of graffiti alone for even a second longer than I had to. There is some paint inside the storehouse. Let us paint over it temporarily as an emergency measure, then repaint it again someday when the weather is good. Genji remembered that he had just recently seen another scribble, and that it too had been made with a strange, dark red substance of the same color as this. That's right. He had seen it on the door of Natsuhi's room. Canon, let's remove this scribble quickly and get back, okay? Even though it's just a storehouse, it's really irritating to have graffiti around the home I was brought up in. Yes, ma'am. I will take care of it immediately. Canon squatted in front of the shutter and unlocked it. Then he lifted it up with all his strength. A boisterous noise resounded, and the eerie shape drawn on the shutter began to get stuck in through the top of the shutter as the shutter was raised. At least for the time being, the ominous drawing disappeared from their direct gaze, and they all breathed a sigh of relief. Thanks to the kids' programming they came across, Maria was feeling much better. Battler and Jessica were poking fun at the kids' shows at every turn, cackling together. George was enjoying the program with Maria from her perspective. Nanjo sat on the sofa by himself, passing the time reading quietly. They heard hurried footsteps coming from the hallway. They were the footsteps of a single person. Did that mean it wasn't the group of 4 that had just left? It was Genji. It was very rare for Genji, who considered being out of breath a violation of a servant's virtue, to be gasping for air. He had probably come dashing back from outside the mansion. His shoulders were soaking wet, and he didn't have his usual trim appearance. When Genji noticed Nanjo looking at him, he gave a small, silent bow and quickly approached him. Dr. Nanjo, my apologies. Please come with me quickly. What is the matter? As Genji whispered something in Nanjo's ear, Nanjo went pale. He rose from the sofa, trying not to be noticed by the children who were still engrossed by TV, and the 2 of them rapidly left the parlor, muffling their footsteps. Just as they were about to exit the parlor, they came across Natsuhi, who was pushing a servant's cart loaded with tea. Genji whispered something in Natsuhi's ear, and Natsuhi went pale, too, in apparent shock. Then, leaving the servant cart where it was, the 3 of them dashed towards the entrance. George noticed them running down the rose garden through the window. What is that? Isn't that Genji and Dr. Nanjo? And that's not Natsuhi, isn't it? What's up, big bro? Maybe something happened. They look terribly flustered. When Jessica and Maria saw Eva, Hideyoshi and Nanjo were no longer in their seats, and that the serving cart had been abandoned in the entrance of the parlor, they also realized that something was the matter. Could there have been some kind of accident? Let's go check it out. It's no fun if we're the only ones left out, right? For some reason, what Battler said sounded extremely indiscreet, but they couldn't deny that they were a little insecure and concerned after seeing the adults run off in the rain without regards to their appearance. Let's check it out, okay? I'm worried something might have happened. Jessica's uneasy words spoke for all of them. Hey, Maria, are you coming too? Or would you like to watch TV?
Oh, wanna watch TV? Oh.
Let's go on without her. Maria, we'll be back soon. You keep watching TV, okay?
Oh.
By the time the kids made it outside, the adults were no longer in sight. But Jessica seemed to have a pretty good idea of where they had gone, judging by the direction they had been running. Following Jessica, they ran through the rain-soaked rose garden. The wind seemed to suddenly get stronger. The malicious sound of thunder began to rumble like it had the previous night. It felt like an eerie something had surrounded the island and was trying to stop us from moving forward. Jessica, is there something over this way? I'm pretty sure there's a shed for gardening tools or something. What in the world could be going on in a place like that? Just as Jessica had said, they began to see the storehouse in front of them. They could also see the adults there. The shutter to the storehouse was open, and several adults looked as though they were searching for something. For some reason, only Natsuhi was outside the storehouse. Without even holding an umbrella, she looked like she was hanging her head and her back was facing them. There was Genji, Nanjo, and Natsuhi, who had just left the mansion. The one who left earlier, Kanon, Ava, and Hideyoshi, were also there, making for a small crowd of people, but there was absolutely no bustle of activity. When Natsuhi realized that the children were approaching, a terrible expression rose to her face, and she ran at them with her arms spread wide. "You mustn't come any closer. Go back to the mansion." But despite that, no, because of that, the kids saw the scene Natsuhi was trying to keep them away from. Inside the storehouse, with its shutters wide open, a faint fluorescent light shone down. And right there was Jessica's piercing shriek rang out. But that was just because Jessica's scream was the loudest. The same thing spit out a battler in George's mouth as well. Ava spread her arms just like Natsuhi, roaring at the kids with a bone-chilling expression on her face. "George, take everyone and return to the mansion. Quickly. Right now." If you end up getting pretty into the Yamaneko, there's patches for voice acting out there. It's really, really good, taken from the PS3 release of it. Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that. When Natsuhi spread her arms, I thought she was trying to prevent us from advancing any further. But that wasn't why Ava was spreading her arms out right now. She was trying to stop us kids from seeing the terrible scene. It was her mother's heart, trying to protect the eyes and hearts of us children by blocking our view of that terrible scene by at least the width of one of her arms. Is this some kind of joke? Is it? I'd seen this kind of cheap scene all too often. In manga, TV, animes, and movies, I'd seen it all over and over again. This was just seeing something appear in real life that I'd seen plenty of times before in some of these more sensational movies, right? That alone shouldn't, that suit, it's that old bastard, isn't it? I get it. Then that's Uncle Cross. And Kyrie and Rosa. Dad! Dad! You mustn't, Jessica. You mustn't go in. You mustn't look. Dad! Dad! Rigor mortis has set in across almost the entire body, most likely. 6 hours or more have passed since death. As far as I can tell by looking at the damaged areas, there is a high probability that they were damaged after their deaths. No, I must watch what I say. I'm a general practitioner. Examining corpses is outside of my area of expertise. So what's going on here? Just killing them wasn't enough? So they went on to do something like this? The devil. This here is the work of the devil. Aunt Natsuhi caught Jessica in her arms, and Aunt Ava caught George. so I was the only one who could approach the entrance to the storehouse. If only there had been someone there to catch me too. I wouldn't have needed to have this horrible, evil scene burned in my eyes. No, that's not it. It isn't that there's no one here to catch me. The people who should catch me, they're right there, aren't they? Just as Jessica said, it did look like a storehouse for gardening tools. A lawnmower with extra blades, a grass sickle and a hammer, some carpentry tools such as a saw, piled up potted plants and bags of fertilizer. And treated just the same, the corpses of several people had been laid to rest there. No, had been tossed in there. I could tell them by their clothes. That old bastard and Kyrie, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Rosa. Beyond that, Goda, and there's still more of them? How many people died? You're fucking kidding me. That's more than I can count on one hand. Damn it! I didn't know whether it had been one of these gardening tools, which, if used for something other than their intended purpose, could definitely be wielded with a naked brutality, or whether some horrible tool had been brought in here specifically for this. Anyway, each one of the bodies jammed in here had been given an atrocious makeup. It wasn't makeup, it was more like their faces had been plowed. Their faces were smashed, forced into expressions that normal people couldn't make even after death. I couldn't tell whether the eyes or the noses were, but I could find their mouths because they were gaping wide, their gums exposed. But their front teeth were missing, and even the cheeks that should have covered all of this were all torn up and laid bare. That trendy makeup you always spent so much time on, even though you're a man, isn't doing a thing now. Ugh. Dad! Always thought you were going to hell. But still, not like this, right? You weren't such a son of a bitch that you should have suffered so brutally. And Kyrie, didn't I tell you to stop going out with this guy? There's absolutely no reason for you to end up like this too. They got no faces. No faces. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it! Battler, you mustn't look anymore. There's no way your mother and father would want you to see them like this. For their sake, you mustn't look anymore. Dead people are supposed to have faces that look like they're sleeping peacefully, right? They got no faces. My dad and Kyrie have no faces. I don't even know what kind of faces they were wearing when they died. What's wrong with me? We'll have to see these smashed monster-like faces every time I remember them? That's just great. I didn't want to remember that old bastard smug face anyway. Just great. Just great. Why, even Kyrie's face. Kyrie wasn't a crook. Sure, she ticked me off a bit now and then, but she was a cool big sister to me. This is wrong. This is all wrong. At least Uncle Kraus has it better, doesn't he? It's not his whole face, just the side. At least he's got half his face, his left face, right? That's still better. That's still better. Jessica filled her ears with the sound of her own screaming, trying to shut out my reckless words. Stop it, Battler. Just stop it. Just stop it. Big brother, big brother. Disregarding age and appearance, I fell to my knees, clinging to Big Brother's waist and sobbing. It was as if I was crying on behalf of everyone there, representing the feeling of everyone there. I screamed over and over. Father, the ones lying over there are Uncle Kraus, Uncle Rudolph, Aunt Kyrie, and Aunt Rosa and Goda. Just those 5, right? No. There are 6 people. There's one more person over here. The body Hideyoshi was looking down on now happened to be hidden among the shadows in that mountain range of objects, in a blind spot to George, who stood by the entrance. So George couldn't tell whose body it was. So George cursed himself. He cursed the fact that his worst guesses always turned out to be right. So, the one lying at your feet is Shannon, isn't it? Yeah, it's Shannon. George fell completely silent. He shook slightly, his lower lip trembling. Normally, he would have wanted to run to his beloved's body, screaming and crying. However, before rashly rushing forward, he worked to keep his composure and asked his father, "Is Shannon the same as Uncle Kraus and the others?" Hideyoshi's deeply understood the meaning of those words, so he couldn't give George an immediate answer. Or rather, he felt the silence that was only sincere and loving response he could give George right now. When George asked if Shannon was the same, he meant to ask whether her corpse was in the same condition as the others or not. Since Hideyoshi hadn't denied it, it meant her corpse was in the same brutal state. "Can I look at Shannon?" "No, you can't." "Why not? After all, I won't be able to see Shannon's face again, right? So, why won't you let me see what her face looked like at the end?" "The last time you met Shannon was yesterday, right?" "Yes." "I see. When you left her, what kind of face was she showing you?" "It was a wonderful smile." After he handed her the ring, she hesitated, even though she must have already made up her mind. Then she looked bashful and ran away because she was embarrassed to let him see her face looking like that. That was the expression that was revived in George's mind. "I see. Then I'm sure Shannon would want you to leave you with that smile in your memory." Hideyoshi looked down upon Shannon's body lying at his feet. Just like the other bodies, it was in such a horrible state that it'd make anyone want to cover their eyes. Her head had been smashed in from the side, and no more than half of her expression remained. If the remaining blood-soaked half of her expression had been wiped clean, would that graceful smile of hers have peeked out? But only half of it. Without thinking, Hideyoshi slapped his hands over his eyes. How brutal. If her face was going to be crushed anyway, then if only it had been crushed. If only all of it had been crushed, he might have been able to temporarily distract George from his pain by making the pathetic suggestion that it was someone else wearing Shannon's clothes. But half of her face had been left untouched. It caused the body so much humiliation, while still proving beyond a doubt that the body was Shannon's and no one else's. How inhumane, how brutish. And there, trying his best to burn the image of the remaining half of Shannon's expression into his eyes as she laid at Hideyoshi's feet, was Cannon. Cannon was not crying. Tears had risen to his eyes, but they did not drip down. But that didn't mean that he wasn't feeling as much sadness as everyone else. Losing Shannon, who had lived with him in the same orphanage, whom he had loved as a sister, must have been just the same as losing a blood relative. "George, I'm sure Shannon is saying thank you. She must be glad you didn't end up seeing her in such a pitiful state. I'm sure she's thanking you for holding strong and showing restraint." "I understand. I understand, Father. I understand." George leaned against the outside wall of the storehouse, crouching down limply. Father, I have a request. What is it? I want you to look for me. Is there a ring on Shannon's finger? A ring? Let me see. Hideyoshi crouched down. As he did, Cannon slightly pointed to one of Shannon's hands. Yeah, there is. It's a diamond ring, with a valuable diamond. Must have been pretty expensive. Which hand and which finger is it on? The ring finger of her left hand. I see. So Shannon was engaged? George, don't tell me you... Ava, that doesn't matter now. A man made a lifelong promise to Shannon. A man promised her happiness for life. Who that man was isn't the issue here. Being told that by a man is a woman's dream, isn't it? I don't know when she received this ring. I also don't know who gave it to her. However, even so, Shannon took this ring, then she accepted it and put it on her left ring finger. I'm sure the man who gave it to her was also happy. To most of the people there, Hideyoshi was simply disturbed by this extraordinary situation and was blurting out nonsense. However, someone who knew of George and Shannon's true relationship would understand the full meaning of those words. I see. Thank you, Father. George stood up. The traces of tears still streaked his face, but his expression had returned to its usual calm one. Let's go. Battler, Jessica. If we stay here any longer, we'll get in the way of the adults. You're right. Jessica sniffed once, showing her face to her mother, who had been holding her the whole time to let her know she was okay now. When she faced George again, she once again had on her usual expression, although she still couldn't smile. Battler, hang in there. Battler kept on crouching in front of his parents' bodies. I'm sorry. Crying like hell calmed me down. You bastard, Dad. I bet you're laughing at me. After all the shit I talked about you, here I am crying like a baby just 'cause you died. Well, so what? I guess I just got the gene that makes you cry whenever your parents kick the bucket. Battler's face was still bright red from the tears, but he had at least recovered enough to fake a smile, if only a better one. Cannon, you mustn't remain here any longer either. Take the children and return to the mansion. Natsuhi had been standing under the rain this whole time, unable to take a step into the storehouse. Maybe she had her own way of grieving, different from Battler's. Realizing that she had to take on a role of responsibility now that her husband was dead, she gave Cannon those orders. Yes, madam. Cannon rose slightly and turned to face me. His face was pure white, almost as though his own heart had died along with Shannon, and there was no life in his expression. On an ordinary day, if he had been told to guide the children through the beautiful rose garden, Cannon might have led the way. But now there was no distinction between Cannon and the children. They were now just kids of about the same age, suffering the pain of losing those close to them. After making sure that the children were leaving, Natsuhi started giving orders to Genji. Genji, contact the police immediately. They probably won't be able to come until the typhoon passes, but they should be able to tell us what to do next. Understood. There is an emergency radio, so I will use that to contact them. When she heard that, Natsuhi remembered. That's right, the phones were out today, weren't they? However, they also had a radio, since they couldn't necessarily rely on phones all the time while living on an isolated island. At any rate, they should start by contacting the police and receiving their instructions. Everything else could wait. Dr. Nanjo, is there anything more you can do here? Unfortunately, there is nothing I can do. Understood. Genji, could you at least cover their faces with something? Exposing
exposing them like this is humiliating to them as well. Yes, ma'am. Genji picked up several dried-up towels from inside the storehouse when Ava stopped him with a shrill voice. Wait a second. Stop. This is the scene of the crime, isn't it? Then we mustn't disturb it. We all panicked and walked in here with our shoes on, but even that will surely get in the way of the police's investigation, right? Natsuhi glared at Eva, offended. Objectively speaking, Ava was right. Even so, she glared at Ava as though accusing her to refuse to do those tragic corpses which had been humiliated even after death the simple kindness of covering their faces. However, Ava had spoken both calmly and correctly. This horrible situation definitely wasn't an accident. It was a crime. Someone had killed them. It was a murder case. So they needed to be careful to avoid disturbing the site any further. They had to do what little they could to aid the police, preserving clues that might help catch the detestable culprit. I agree with Ava. Until the police come, we should leave everything be. What do you say, madam? You're right. Very well. Close it up. And, just in case, we should put a different lock on it. A different lock? Yes. When we came in here, the shutter was unlocked. That means the culprit used the key to the shutter to unlock it. That makes sense. So does that mean the key that opens this shutter will have the culprit's fingerprints on it? I'm sure it'll be worth submitting to the police as evidence, but Cannon usually has it, and he used it to unlock the shed just now. It probably have Cannon's fingerprints on it. Also, the key was handed to Genji just now, and he took it with his bare hands. Doesn't look like it's very useful as evidence. That was careless of me. My apologies. Genji, are there any other keys to the storehouse? No, only this one. So the culprit walked out of the servant's room with that key, and then was nice enough to return the key to where they found it? I would love to continue, but I am so tired. And I have movies to watch, so I'm going to save it here, and we will pick up tomorrow, okay? Oh. It even highlights when they're dead. Look at that. Look how many people are gone. Did I? Okay, save. Beautiful. Alright. It got spooky! Yay! We did it! We got to the spooky part! I'm so sleepy though. I'm gonna go watch a movie now. Good night! Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for listening to fun story time. I appreciate you all. I appreciate everyone. I don't even know who to raid. I gotta go. So I'm just gonna go. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow. I don't know when, but I'll see you tomorrow for continued subathon. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.